All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Y'all know if it's Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics Are Local. But more importantly, y'all know if it is the first Friday, y'all know it's time for the Payne Report. With my brother, my beloved brother, of course, you all know, is none other than I don't like to use the word late none other than my brother Donald M. Payne Jr., who went home to be with the Lord. And as you all know, we've committed doing Payne Report right through to November's presidential election. And of course, we had determined to do that because one of the things we talked about with the congressman was is that he wanted us to focus on the election to try to energize our community around voting. Because as you know, one of the things that Mayor Baraka said last month was is that there didn't seem to be any energy around this election, particularly in our community. And so the congressman wanted to make sure that going forward, at least on his show, that we began to deal with that and try to turn up the volume. So, of course, I'm one of your hosts, and I'm Ed Riley. John will give you the rundown with the rest of that, and then, of course, we'll bring on, we'll bring on our brother Eric Payne, who will be with us for the next few months, sitting in for his cousin, and we're grateful for that. We're appreciative of brother being willing to cut out some time to make himself available. So, John, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Jonathan Alston, and we're here with the All Politics Are Local. At 7 p.m., we got an exciting show. At 7 p.m., we're going to have Pamela Shaw of the Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition and Perry Shaw of the Trenton Community Street Team talk about Saturday's Unity Walk and against gun violence and Violence Awareness Day. Of course, Zaid is going to be here for all of that. Zaid Muhammad is going to be here for all of that. He's always going to give us a lot on understanding the different ways that we can keep our community safe and how to go about the different ways of dealing with violence prevention and anti-violence. At 7:45, we're going to have GoPro radio journalist uh, Doshon Farad talk about the conversations about Black people voting in the elections. Will newly convicted felon Donald Trump get more of the Black vote? Trump spending millions. And there's widespread dissatisfaction with Joe Biden on issues of inflation and Gaza. So there's a question of also, will Black voters stay home? So it's going to be a lively discussion. Based, Dashan is an award-winning journalist, and travels all over, and he has a lot of different perspectives. So it's going to be a fun conversation. And then, of course, after that, at 8:30, we have DJ Rhino and the State of Hip Hop, and that's going to be a great conversation as well. So we have a packed show. Are going to have a good show. We're going to have a lot of conversations about politics, the upcoming elections, and what's going on. So, and yes, we have Kalina Berryman here. Hey,
Hello,
well,
good evening, gentlemen. How are you today?
Good evening.
good.
Good. Glad to be here.
Always an honor and a pleasure. Always an honor and a pleasure.
So
Cool.
you can introduce. Well, I don't know. Maybe you already know Eric Payne. Do you know Eric Kalina?
No, I don't. I don't know Eric Payne.
Oh, okay.
Good to
Well,
meet you.
Eric is, of course, Congressman Donald Payne's cousin.
All right, all right. Thank you for being here for the Payne Report. Glad we can keep it going. Um,
Thanks for having me.
thank you.
And so, brother
And
Payne, why don't you go ahead and introduce who you got with us tonight? All I read when you sent me that text was 28 years. I was like, whoa. I mean, I need to just bow down and give her the floor. She know everything.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's
And
Go ahead, Jonathan.
I was going to say, just in case people don't know, Eric Payne is an accomplished actor in his own right, and just wanted to throw that in there in terms of who you are as well.
You're too kind, my brother. I appreciate I appreciate that, and I know that give you props for really just touched my heart that you knew my mom and Kay Thompson, WLIP radio, and she was able to give you some advice and maybe kind of help you along the way there. So it really kind of touched.
Absolutely, right? Like, uh, amazing, and it's wild how I didn't make the connection, you know, for many years, right? So no, very much appreciated.
It's the full circle of our community, you know,
Yes.
all of us from the Newark area, and just the full circle of how we've all come together from growing up, being born, and then, you know, understanding and picking up the mantle for the liberation. You know, I'm a little bit more militant than the politicians in my family. You know, I'm about the liberation of Black people, and you know, I was in Malcolm X the movie as my father met him once, but you know, I'm a little bit more upfront, I guess, of my father's son a little bit. Had my cousin's back as my father had his brother's back. And Isabel Cruz started with my uncle Donald Payne Sr. when he was elected to Congress all those years ago. And she stayed on to help my cousin. And she's been there for 28 years. And
wow.
was there from the beginning, really, pretty much, for the most part. And so she's helped a lot of constituents. She's very well respected in the community as being a good Democrat, and really with her constituent services. There's nobody better than her. So Isabel is with us today.
Thank you.
The pictures in the background of my cousin and my uncle there behind her. So, you know, Isabel, if you want to say a few words to
Sure. I just want to say I'm proud to be here because I was I wrote some stuff down because I was a little bit nervous, but I was proud to be a part of both Payne Sr. and Payne Jr.'s team. Over the last 28 years, we've been able to help so many people. They were both great bosses, and they were both kind-hearted. And Congressman Payne Jr., he had a tremendous amount of empathy. People would come into the office and say, oh, you know, I saw the congressman at Penn Station and he told me to come by the office to get help. You know, he never turned anyone away, no matter who they were. And he always, his motto in the office was, no matter what condition the people come in, if we can't help them, because there was some stuff we couldn't do, we're going to guide them and send them to where they can get the help that they need. So he never turned anyone away. He was just a kind-hearted person as his father. And they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, which is true. But although Congressman Payne Jr., you know, they always used to tell him you have big shoes to fill, but he didn't have to fill his father's shoes because he made his own path. And he was a hard worker and just truly dedicated to the people in the 10th Congressional District.
Well, Isabel, I want to tell you, please don't be nervous. This is the Payne Report. This is his show, and so nobody should be more comfortable than you. With 28 years of working with both Payne Senior and Junior, and of course, you know, I mean, you know, Senior was of course our elder in our community, and then Junior, he was our brother. We all came up together. So please don't feel nervous. No, you right amongst family. So
thank you.
And you know, we just want to hear all of the wonderful stories you got, and anything else you want to share with us in the Payne Report.
You know, that the congressman was kind of shy. You know, he never used to boast about whatever he did. But when his funeral, I still haven't processed all of that, but at his funeral, everyone spoke very highly of everything that he did. He had the most members of Congress at his funeral. 64 members came. They had to get 2 planes because so many members wanted to pay respect to him for all the work that he did. From the class of members that went in with him, he was the one that passed the most laws during his tenure in Congress. And also, I wrote a couple of things down. Is it okay if I read some of the stuff down? Okay. He used to be always on the floor in Congress. He won the John Lewis Award 4 years in a row for the most 1-minute speeches on the floor of the House of Representatives, which is when you go on the floor and you speak about people in the district that have done extraordinary things. He was the winner of that award 4 years in a row. When he got to Congress, he became a strong advocate for quality health care. He personally was aware of the impact of poor health and disease affecting our communities. And although he battled so many different health challenges, he still kept moving forward every single day. Even when he had dialysis, he would still go to meetings. He had dialysis three times a week, and he still kept going. He never stopped to the last day. He believed that every American deserved the same quality health care as members of Congress receive, because it shouldn't matter, where you live or whatever. You should have good health care. He got President Obama to make March Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, because his father, Congressman Payne Sr., passed from colorectal cancer. And he got every president after that. We won't mention the second one, but Biden also did it. So every year they mark Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month in March. And then he won some bipartisan support for removing the barriers of Colorectal Cancer Screening Act. Because that what they used to do when you get a colonoscopy, they would charge you extra if they found polyps. So he passed a bill that would allow people to get whatever test they wanted, and they didn't have to pay. Medicare would take. I think my microphone was going.
No, that was a technical difficulty on my part. So you just continue. He
sponsored, helped pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which included a provision for insulin to go down to $35 a month with a cap of $2,000 a year. And he was a fierce champion for the prevention of unnecessary amputations and vascular health. He always used to say that amputations, that was wartime medicine. Mm-hmm. That people used to get that done during wars, the beginning of wars, the Civil War and all of that. That's how they did. And they kept on doing it. But guess what? That's mostly in minority communities that they do that. African American, Hispanic, and all of that. So he founded the Peripheral Artery Disease Caucus to highlight the limb amputation crisis associated with diabetes, especially with African Americans. And of course, he worked on the Invest in America Act, which is working for the Gateway Project and the Portal North Bridge, which is going to help the Hudson River Tunnel. And he fought so much for that, they gave him the nickname Mr. Gateway. So all I have to say is we should remember him and live by the example he set, which he was a true public servant. His life epitomized what is possible when we lead with grace, purpose, dignity, empathy, and unparalleled style, because, he loved his bow ties. So he left a void that, it will now be filled, but a legacy to be followed by all of us. So, we miss him here in the office. It's been very difficult for us here, and we've tried hard. We've been taken over by the clerk of the House of Representatives now. So until the election comes on in July and September, so we're here until that time, and we'll see what happens after that. But I've been so proud and blessed to be able to work with Payne Sr. and Payne Jr. So I feel very honored to be here to talk about him. I used to tell him he was my twin because he was born in December 17th and I was born December 19th. I used to tell him we were twins from a different mother.
I'm December 21st.
Woo woo.
December 6th.
It's the December crew then.
Yeah. Well, Isabel, I think we want to also thank you for your work. As someone who spent 17 years as a right hand to an important person, doing great work. I know how much of your blood, sweat, and tears has gone into every accomplishment that was achieved. And so we thank you. Having somebody there solid with you across time is so important because it's a trusted partner. And so we salute you. And I'm glad that we get to know one of the people who helped to make the giant that is Donald Payne, operate and run. And I had the privilege in February, he was at Donald Payne Tech. We received this federal grant and he came to the school and, he was just supposed to come for a photo op. We had some students that were going to speak and there was a gap in time and he sat with those students for about 45 minutes and told them the history of, I think it was either the Boys and Girls Club. He was a part of something, Boys and Clubs or YMCA, something like that. So he told them the history of that, and he really took the time to get to know what they wanted to do. And then he stayed and taste tested the culinary department's dish. I mean, he spent way more time than he was supposed to be there. But that was just who he was. That's what he did. You know, he would stop for kids and for people and for everyone. So,
hey, Kalina, I think you just ratted him out. You tasted the culinary dish.
It was healthy. It was salad. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the best crab cakes he tasted.
It was healthy. It was a healthy cooking competition. So, and he just had a little taste, but it meant so much to those young people to have a congressman taste their submission into their competition. So, you know, just very proud to have had that moment with him right before he passed.
And it's funny because even here in the office, you know, he was in D.C. and then would come to the district, and sometimes constituents would call and he would pick up the phone and they'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe the congressman spoke to me." Or if someone was upset about their case, you know, because people bring in their issues into the office and we have to contact federal agencies for them, they will be completely shocked that he will pick up the phone and take their time to speak to them. But that's who he was, is, and always will be.
Yeah. I do have a question, if it's okay, guys. Can I ask Isabel a question? So I want to know, you know, as we look to filling this seat, the elections that are coming up, what do you think he would tell the next person to have that seat that is it, to do? Or, you know, if they want to uphold his legacy in that seat, what do you think that he would tell them to advocate for, or what kind of posture to take as in leadership? You know, what do you think would be his message for them?
I think the most important thing to him was his constituents. Because if you don't service the constituents, you know, the people are that put you in office. If you don't service, if you don't have the service for them, assist them in what the issues that they need with the federal agencies. That's why we're here. When people come into our office, they're at their wits' end. They don't know what else to do, and we're here to help them. If you don't do the job, then you will not be reelected. So it's people service. That's what his main focus was. Although he was in Washington creating bills and passing laws, but his most important thing was servicing the community, servicing the people of the 10th Congressional District.
Yeah. And Eric, what do you think his call to action would be?
His call to action would be to remember the people that you represent. And to remember that you're a member of the community. You're just like everybody else. That just because you hold a position and a title doesn't separate you from the people. The people bestow the title on you. They trust you with their voice and their hopes and their dreams. And you have to take that very seriously. But you don't take it seriously to the point where you're looking down on them, or you think you're better than them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, my cousin lived on the same block his whole life.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
And, you know, he was Newark down. You know, he always represented the bricks. And, you know, wanted people to know he's a regular person like everybody else. And that's kind of what we live by. So
never forget where you came from, where you started. Always remember the people that came along with you and never leave anybody behind.
Yeah.
You know, I had a perspective of someone who had gone away from home, lived in LA, was doing the acting thing for 17 years. So when I come back home and see how all these people are reacting to my uncle and my cousin and people talking about legacy and dynasty, to me, it was just something that they did.
Right.
It was just part of our lives, you know, that our parents, our fathers were contemporaries of that civil rights generation, a contemporary of Dr. King's and Malcolm X. With Brother Zahir, we talked about my father and his buddy, Mr. Stevens. Malcolm X came to Rutgers all those years ago. So it was just what that generation did.
Yeah.
You said that we're either going to take this Jim Crow, we'll let somebody really know, talk about what Jim Crow, how devastating that is. Either we're going to take that or we're going to push through this and make something happen. And they were tired of it. It's like we need to be tired of it now and understand the game that we're in. And I don't mean to make it like a game, but it is what it is. Voting is a binary choice. You don't get your candidate. So we don't have that luxury as Black people. We don't have the luxury to sit out elections and say, I'm not going to vote and have a protest vote, because this is what it is. Mm-hmm. And too many of our people have died and made sacrifices. And part of the reasons I realized why my father was so passionate when he would speak, because he knew Medgar Evers. He knew Dr. King. The last time he saw Dr. King, or saw Medgar Evers and tried to tell Medgar not to go back to Mississippi. Medgar Evers told him, "Have you ever been to Mississippi? It's beautiful." So he always talked about that's the least he can do is to be passionate about it, and that's the least we can do this generation. You know, I get heated, so a lot of times the politics, you know, I'm ready to rock and roll with it. You know, I mean, these people are acting like we're not down or to get down, you know, but there's a lot of us that are, and maybe that's why a lot of young brothers don't get into politics as much because they don't understand how to channel that energy. But there's a way to channel it and fight back, and so we need to understand that and understand where we are, because sometimes we got to move like a team, like Public Enemy says. Sometimes we got to move as a monolithic group to get it, to make it happen. You know, so, you know, you had a cat the other day talking about black people and for some reason bringing up Jim Crow and the black family. And, you know, it's amazing to me that we still have, like Malcolm X said, some of those house Negroes around that want to say certain things like that and appease people. So, you know, we know what time it is in the city that we come from. We're not about that. You know, we're all from generations that stood up and decided to say no more. So, you know, that's where we're coming from.
I was going to say that also public service, people get into public service because they want to help the community, and you don't get into public service to become rich, because it's not a profession that pays for you to become rich. You're doing it because it comes from the kindness of your heart and you want to help people. Like the congressman, he was never looking for accolades. When at his service, when they were talking about all the stuff that he did, people were like, wow, I didn't realize that he did so much, because he was never boastful. He was never saying, he just was on the ground working every single day.
You know, to me, it's family. We're family. We're from the neighborhood. We're neighbors. We're community members. We're family, you know? And so we ride for, you know, like they say, you know, some of the cats, the gangster raps say they ride for the neighborhood. We ride for the hood. We ride hard for it too. This is our fam, you know, especially Brick City, the house music and some of the things we do in the history of Newark. You know, I would see Shaquille O'Neal in LA. People would ask him where he's from. He never hesitated to say where he's from. He said, we would tell you he's from Newark, you know? So we're proud, always proud of where we're from. I grew up in Maplewood, but I would still represent. I'm from Newark, you know?
Right.
So,
you know, the one thing, you know, the congressman used to talk about, right, when he would come on and do a show, it would always be difficult for him to list his accomplishments. And we would always say, well, talk more about what you're doing. And you know, what's interesting is that, you know, when you came on, Mrs. Cruz, and you started listing his accomplishments, I was just thinking in my mind, we should have recorded you and had you just list his accomplishments, because he wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? And we would say, man, you know, let's talk about, you know, what you've done. And you ran all that down, and he would never do it, right? Because people would say, you know, what are you doing, you know, in Congress? Because they didn't understand what he did. And they didn't understand, you know, what his job was about. But the fact that you ran all of that down was amazing.
That was only a portion of it, so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be pleased by it. I'd be like, really, Chop? You did that?
Yeah, he was a hard worker, I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
And he knew what he talked about. When he was on his committees, nobody could challenge him, because he knew what he was saying. He knew what he was talking about. So, especially anything with Homeland Security or the Portal Bridge, or like New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut are like the three most dangerous miles here, because we have the airport, the rail, and the seaport. So that's why he wanted to get on the infrastructure and all of that, so he can be informed of anything that would happen in our area. So he did so much stuff. It's just, you know, I need to write a book about it.
Yeah. I think you got 28 years of experience. I think you can. And you know, when we talk about Payne Sr. and Payne Jr., you know, I mean, I go back to Payne Sr. obviously as a child, and him being, you know, a councilman here in the city, and you know, of course, you know, being able to, you know, go down and, you know, completely know nothing about politics and get an education going in City Hall from Payne Sr. And then, of course, getting an opportunity to know Junior, running for council, becoming a councilman, and and then all, going to Congress, and basically we rode with him all 14 years. I mean, from the moment, you probably already know, from the moment he became a congressman, we started this show with him, and he only missed, and you know this, right, Eric, because I told you, he's only missed 2 shows.
Right.
And the reason he missed those 2 shows is one, because he had dialysis once, and then the other one was he had a train issue. That was it. But imagine his commitment, right, to the folks in the 10th district. And it was important for him to come on. And when he was in the studio, he would take calls, right? He would literally take the phone calls. And at the end of it, and you now, Ms. Cruz, I don't know if you noticed, but even after we were in the show, he wouldn't leave. Right? We said, don't you gotta go home? And you probably was there when he wouldn't leave.
I was there. Hang out, talk about it.
We were like, do we need to put you out? He just wouldn't leave. Right? But you're right. He understood the value of being, not only there for his constituents, but he was there just to really share, all of his experiences, right? Those that he had, as a politician, but more importantly, those he had on the block, right? Around music, because he loved hanging in there talking about, hip hop and talking about house music, and and those were the conversations we would have with them. I mean, that Zaid, when we be in there kicking it with him, and then no had a Black Power conversation with him, right? Eric, he talk about how people used to protest him. I remember y'all used to protest me, man. I remember the stuff y'all used to say, man. He wouldn't let nobody forget, man.
That's right.
Let me put a pin on what both of you said. And Kalina, why are you asking permission to ask questions on the show? That was
because I didn't look at the agenda and I don't know the plan, but I had time.
Get on.
I don't know the plan. That's the only reason. Don't worry about it.
I just want to emphasize with Isabel. Isabel, welcome to our space too, right? Isabel and Eric said is that Don Jr., like all of us, is not just a son of struggle, but he's also the last wing of that those movement-based elected officials that stayed true to their base, right? And each of you described, all of you just described the illustrations of that. And of course, we have our own firsthand experiences with that, and it's something that this generation of elected officials need to learn from, right? Because Eric, what you do when you alluded to the class question using Malcolm's language, that has some very serious implications for the number of collaborators in our community that do not stay engaged with their base, that do place themselves in a position of privilege with these offices, right? And do things that do not reflect the service of our community. And one of the ugliest expressions of that just recently was the New Jersey State Legislature, along with the governor, pushing through a bill that guts New Jersey's Oakland Public Relations Act. And then before that happened, New Jersey ranked 48th out of 50 states in public records access, 48th. And they're coming up with a bill to make that even worse. And the number of Black elected officials that participated in that was disgusting. I can count on one hand, the Black elected officials that didn't. And I must say, in our district, our beloved daughter, Brittany Timberlake, was one of those who had the spine and the principle to say, no, I'm not participating in that. That's not what I'm about. That's not what this state is about, right? New Jersey has a disgusting reputation for being the so-called soprano state, not behind underground gangsterism in the streets, but behind corrupt politics that is totally disconnected from being transparent and serving the people. We come from a tradition that represents the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Right? And being community-based being about your community, being engaged with your community is how that is supposed to look and supposed to be expressed. So we want to lift that up because it becomes an important model for how we are supposed to move forward, because we need people like Kalina's age and down to pick this up and to clean this mess up.
Yeah, because there are certain things you just won't do. There are certain things that it doesn't matter the consequence. There's no way I'm going to be involved in anything that guts Oprah because of that foundation and community. There's no way that I'm not going to have a position of leadership and not lean on the constituents and be outspoken about that. And to be present on a weekly show like this, there's no way. And I think that some of those rules of engagement and rules of leadership and responsibilities of elected officials that are rooted in the civil rights movement that have been passed down to some of us, regardless of leadership positions. So whether I'm a nonprofit leader, a CEO, or an elected official or whatever, there's a way that I'm going to govern myself. And a lot of that, it's still being passed down. There are young people coming after me that are learning these principles. But when we go to the polls, we have to make sure that even if you don't believe that this is important, you understand that your constituents do, and that we are going to make sure that we hold you accountable for that. So anything that compromises the people's access to information, you have to know that you will not be reelected if you try to undermine that. You will not be supported if you engage in something like that. And we haven't been clear about that. We haven't expressed our non-negotiables when it comes to leadership.
And one of the things also that people have to realize in elected positions, that you're there because the people voted for you to be there, and you have to be there for their interests. And one thing that Bill Payne always says, to thine own self be true. As long as you can look yourself in the mirror, you're doing the right thing. So always stay focused on that, and never forget the people are the one that voted you in, that put you in there to do the job. You're there to work for them, not for yourself or not for anybody else. You're there to represent the people.
Yeah. It's easy for people to get caught up in the, you guys know I was in Hollywood, I was entertainment. So I seen the facade of how people get caught up and, people recognize you and this and that. And, have people recognize me and all that. I understand the superficiality of that. And there's a certain aspect of celebrity in politics and public service that, when you become popular and people saying, hey, there's my man, whatever, there's people that can get caught up and carried away with being the celebrity aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And that's not what it's about, at least not in that environment. In the environment, you want to be in Hollywood and sign autographs or whatever. I mean, I'm not that type of artist, but that's where that belongs. It doesn't belong in your service to the people. Right. It doesn't belong in what they chose you to do. There's some things ain't for sale. Right. Some things you don't compromise on. Right. You got to stand on principle, like Isabel said, like my father and my uncle taught me. Something, my father, a lot of times he wasn't going along with the crowd when he was in the assembly. He didn't go along with that stuff because it wasn't right. And he didn't mind standing on his own. He had started his own business. He brought it back into the community of Newark in the 70s, urban data systems that we had that chopped. Ironically, got to the point where he ran the whole plant. But businesses were leaving Newark after the uprising. My father decided to come back in Newark and offer jobs. And not only that, hire brothers who were coming home from incarceration, and teach them and give them a job, because they wasn't hiring the brothers back then. Barely hiring them now when they come home. But he wanted to bring that for his community. That's the kind of mentality we need to have. It needs to be all encompassing when we understand the control industry and how we have to move with that to help our people come up, and understand the financials of things.
So Eric, can we, in honor of the congressman, can we start this conversation? Because you alluded to it earlier, right? Let's talk about, and I don't want to talk about it from a fear factor perspective, right? I think we all understand how important this election is that's coming up, right? And I'm sure you probably saw recently where Lawrence Taylor has just recently come out and endorsed Donald Trump, and he's going to be a major surrogate that they're going to start pushing, particularly around the football season, right? because there are a lot of black men who are on the fence. And so, and you know, I mean, I actually reached out to Lawrence Taylor yesterday or the day before and had a conversation with his representatives and reference to him coming on the show and having a conversation with them. And, you know, and they asked me some silly questions, man. It was just absolutely insane. Some of the stuff I don't even want to repeat. And, and I thought that, my conversation with him was good, but then his people, man, I was like, whoa, what is this? And I'm like, but remember, he represents a particular segment of our community that don't see nothing but sports, right? They don't see the politics. So can we talk about, to our brothers and sisters, but particularly to the brothers, because that's who they going after.
Right.
Why is it important, man, for us to really, and I know it's about our interests, but how do we talk to them, Eric, to say, let's don't be fooled by that, man. And let's talk about why our vote is important.
We got to break down the science. Just like we understand the rules of football, got to break down the science. I mean, LT's my man. I'm a Giants fan, but I wouldn't be going to him for the first person to talk about politics and the like. So right. We know that over the years, right? I mean, you got to consider the source. But I've seen brothers on MSNBC and my brother that does the documentaries talk to a number of brothers in South Carolina that were on the fence about voting. And I would just encourage them to understand the full process and what was gained, what was sacrificed to get you there, but understand how the game works. How it is that when we elect certain elected officials, right, on a federal level, for example, and those officials are in the position to confirm judges, right?
There you go.
So I was talking to a black lawyer, and the brother told me years ago, it's about the judges, it's about the federal judges. That's why Republicans were on that tip years ago, right? Because they understood if we could control that aspect of it, then we could push our agenda forward. Yep. So we need to really educate our people. And I got a problem with the Democratic Party because A, we need better PR to let people know what we're doing. And we need to educate the people about how the process works. Educate the people about this whole electoral college and how that came about and to understand the trick bag that is, right? And so once the people understand really how the intricacies, this is chess, it ain't checkers, and what we're involved in, what we're up against, we need to educate them and let them know this is how the game is played, man, and this is how we come up, right? Just like we learn certain games and we learn certain hustles out, we might learn to hustle in the street, we might learn this. There's an analogy to be made, right? If you come from the streets, there's a certain analogy to be made that can be applied to politics and to the other aspect of life. If you're coming from a certain side of the tracks and you're getting your game together, we understand that certain influential families that have gone on to be respectful in the United States started in certain areas. Their families started in certain things that might have been illegal back in the day. Some powerful families that have gone on to elect presidents might have had relatives back in the day that were runners and were bootleggers back in the day. Which they built their wealth. The United States built its wealth on the backs of black people, right? And then when cotton and slavery was king. So we got to understand it's all interconnected. It's all linked. And so when you understand how they're playing the game, then you could compete. But if we don't understand how the vote and why it's necessary to vote, why it's necessary to vote on the local level, on the county level, and on the state level, and to let people and to really draw the line. This affects that, which affects that, which affects that. The domino effect of it. You play dominoes. A lot of brothers play dominoes. Well, this is the science behind it. So I think getting through to the brothers like that, I understand, back in the day when black people, you had cats rapping about Donald Trump and liking Donald Trump and him trying to say, because I've been locked up, that's the community, the black community. No.
Yep.
Yeah. We used to like you until we found out that you were discriminated against, you and your dad discriminated against black people back in the 70s, and the Justice Department had to come and take you all to court. People used to admire you because they didn't know who you were.
Right.
When you took out that ad in the New York Times Magazine to try and call for the death penalty for the exonerated 5.
Right.
And maybe you didn't. Okay. Maybe you thought
Trying to get them to come on within the next 2 weeks.
Say it again, is that?
I'm trying to get them to come on the show within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, the brothers, I mean, if you say that, oh, well, I didn't know any better. I thought they committed the crime, which I know, which was obvious. My mother knew, and all the press knew that it was a lie, that they were trying to railroad those kids. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say you didn't know, Donnie. Well, once you found out, once you know better, then you do better, right? But
That's right. Come on.
They use that as a smokescreen. They're using us. They're using these individuals who are obviously willing to be used to misguide and mislead their people. And so we can't get caught up in that. We got to see through the smoke screen.
Right.
You know, like Flavor said, my vision ain't blurry.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to break that down to the brothers and let them know and really sit down and have some hard conversations. We don't have to be polite, and maybe not use the best language. You got to talk to people in the vernacular in which they can understand.
That's right.
I was also going to say that when people,
I'll go ahead.
I was going to say when people vote, a lot of people don't realize how important their vote is. 5 votes can make a difference in an election. And if people complain, oh my God, I don't like him. Oh my God, I'm so tired of him. Well, the next election, get everyone that you know together and vote the person out. They're not there forever. That's why you have your vote. Your vote is important. And you shouldn't take it for granted. You should always vote in every election, from school board to president. Because a lot of people don't come out and vote on the school board. Even this last election for this primary, it was very low vote count. People need to realize that their vote is not going to be taken for granted. People fought for the right to vote. Why would you throw it away? Every vote counts and every vote matters.
People died for the right to vote.
Yeah.
I mean,
For the end, that's right.
Yeah.
Eric, I appreciate what you lifted up, because you're going where I wanted to go, because you in a very firsthand and community-friendly way, you Malcolm-sized the conversation. Malcolm used to lay this stuff out 60 years ago, right? There's a conversation that he did at UC Berkeley that's floating around on YouTube now from '63. He talks about this very thing. That sector in our community is, I would say, just 2 things very quickly. One is the most backwards and isolated sector in our community, right? And they're only being catered to because the celebrity realm is a realm that's used to market products and to serve capitalism. Second, and piece that's not getting looked at, is that Donald Trump is one of the most vicious examples of a modern sexist that we really need to look at, right? And male privilege is definitely a part of this energy too that needs to be addressed, right? And so folks want to beat. There are a whole lot of folks running around that want to be like Donald because of the dirty stuff he's done and gotten away with by virtue of his male privilege, instead of standing up and opposing that for every bit and every ounce of wrong that it is.
We need to, people talk about, I've said, you got to respect this gangster.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of
and he definitely understood that on the point that you raised about judgeships. When he was in, he flooded the court with judges of his ilk. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yep.
And if he get reelected this time, I understand that he got an opportunity to place 3 more young judges on the Supreme Court, and they got the chance to be there for the next 40 years,
right?
To dial back everything that has happened in the civil rights movement. But here's the other thing that we've got to remember, and I'm saying this from my position as a lawyer. Listen, one of the things that we've got to be clear on is what delivered us from slavery, right, was a constitutional vote, right? Where they got together and remember, Donald Trump is talking about rewriting the Constitution. So what's to say if these people wanted to go and say, you know what, we want to change the law because he wants to be president forever and we want to change the Constitution? they can rewrite the Constitution and say, you know what, slavery now is back in session.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And they only need about, I think it's 2/3 of state governments to pull that off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they, it's not just this federal election that we need to be looking at. We need to be looking at these state house elections too, because that's definitely a part of their larger plan. That they're very intentional, very public about it. There's no secrets about this.
Oh yeah, they're up front.
Where they want to go.
Right. So when they talk about, taking away the rights from women to choose, right, with their own bodies, it's insane to me, right? Because how would you? It's almost like these people don't have mothers. It's almost like they don't have sisters, and for them to be saying this kind of stuff, it's like And so remember, the one thing we hear from Mama Barack all the time is she drives home to us all the time, Eric. Fascism. Pay attention to fascism, right? Because it's on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
And most young people have no idea what the hell that is, right? But it's right in your face. There it is.
Yeah. And the way they're
women's reproductive rights. I don't even know how these women vote for him. He's taking away your rights, and he's saying, let it go to the states. Because if each state does its own thing, then why is it in Texas, Utah, and all those places you can't even have an abortion? Abortion is a woman's right to do what she wants with her own body. Right. Everybody might not agree, but why should a man have to say something about a woman's body? It's a woman's body. It should be her decision no matter what. I know everybody doesn't agree to it, but women should have their rights. And I don't know how these women vote for Trump with everything that he's doing against women. He's so misogynistic. He's a bum.
Anytime someone's talking about states' rights, I'm always looking at them funny.
Mm-hmm. You better get your gun.
That's right, because when
you better get your gun. They got that.
That's the precursor to slavery, right?
Yeah, right.
Because that's what that was about. They didn't,
I just dropped the Chat Project 2025, which is their manifesto of how they intend to do these very things that we're talking about. Right. And folks need to study that document to be very clear about just what they have on the table if they get back in power.
Yeah. These individuals never give up. Because imagine we march, we battle for the rights, and 50 years later, they want to take the rights back, like the voting rights, right? It was voted for 50 years, right? I think it was 50 years from the point it was ratified. But my whole thing is like, why are we saying 50 years? Why are we putting a limit on it? What plans do y'all have?
Right.
How does that work? We're gonna vote, okay, we'll let it go for 50 years but y'all got plans in 50 years? You're gonna try to come back. And now we realize that they never give up trying to take back your rights.
That's right.
The whole insurance industry, why we don't have universal health care. We understand there's an article, there was a German statistician that Prudential hired. And there's an article that you can look up how they talked about health insurance and the fact that how they didn't want health insurance because they didn't want Black people to have health insurance. All of this stuff, the racism that it's based on to keep us from having the same rights, us that have built this country, from having those same rights.
Right.
Rights for everybody.
Right. What I'm reminded of is what the mayor said last week. Well, no, he said this Saturday. He was doing a rally, where he's campaigning to be governor. And he said, I don't know if you saw this, Zaid, but I tweeted it out and I sent it out. I posted it. He said that people who have power put people in power, right? So if you got power, you can put other people in power. And he said that's why he's running for governor, right? He said, because I don't want power just to have power to be running around and be crazy. No, I want to have this power and I want to put people in power. Well, we see what happened with Murphy. You see how he's using his power, right? He's dialing back, right, the things that have benefited, particularly Black folks who put him in office. He's dialing it back.
Progressive facade.
We have to be conscious of voting our interests, right? Everybody else does.
Exactly.
And just like you said, Eric, you're absolutely right. we've got to understand, because Professor Smalls talks about this when he comes on the show, and what he says, Mrs. Cruz, when he comes on, he says, we've got to get away, from always thinking about other people first instead of thinking about ourselves first. We've got to think about what is the needs of our community, what is the needs of our people, right? And that's what we've got to think about. Let's not think about everybody else. Think about themselves first. That's just like all those women you talking about, Mrs. Cruz, when you said that how is it that some of these women could actually give up the rights to their own bodies and vote with their husbands? These are the same women who said, right, that they were going to support Hillary Clinton, but then went in the booth, right, and voted along the lines with their husbands and voted for Trump. How could that be? And that is why Tamika Mallory and all of them sisters, when they did the Women's March, they told all the white women, get the hell out of our face. Y'all ain't our sisters. Y'all come here acting like y'all are sisters, but y'all voted with your husbands.
Yeah.
Y'all ain't siding with women and protecting women's rights. Come on.
We need to be transactional. We need to be transactional with our vote.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. And that's what it's always been. What are you going to do for our community?
Yes.
Also, this is generational. It doesn't affect me. I'm an older woman already, but all the young ladies that are coming up now, it's going to affect all of them. The next two generations, because Roe v. Wade is not coming back unless we get some other Supreme Court justices. That's not going to happen anytime soon. And like we said, if Trump gets back in, forget it. It'll be backwards 50 years.
That's right. That's right. We won't see it. If it ever comes back, we won't see it.
Nope.
There is no decorum with these people. There is no let's follow the rules, let's do the right thing.
There are no rules.
If there are no rules, as far we're talking about individuals who will change the very rules that they made up, and they don't suit them.
Yeah.
It's like we're playing ball, and all of a sudden I'm beating you, so you say, okay, now you got to play with one hand behind your back.
Yeah.
So we're talking about how they stole Barack Obama's Supreme Court pick.
That's right.
College just decided not to bring it up, and Barack said this is unprecedented.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't expect them to follow protocol when it doesn't fit them. They've already shown that to us time and time again.
Yeah.
It's about power, in my perspective. It's about power.
Yeah. And the more power they have, the more power they want.
That's right. It is about power, right? And that is exactly what the mayor said last week. He said it's about power. And we've got to be clear that unless we get the power, we don't have the ability to put other people in power, to do something to change the conditions of our lives. And that's what we've got to start focusing on. And like you said, we've got to be intentional. Right?
All power to the people is not a slogan, it is an objective, right?
Yes.
That's something that Miri taught us. I should say this too about brother mayor and candidate governor, is that you just heard me blast everybody on this Oprah Act, right? The only gubernatorial candidate to oppose this vile act was Mayor Ras J. Baraka on his way to.
That's right.
You ain't heard a peep out of these other gubernatorial candidates on it, because they all get down with this corrupt soprano state culture and do all that double and triple dipping and whatnot, trying to get rich where they should be trying to serve the people.
That's right.
Get close on it.
That's right. It's a lot of integrity that people need to have, because, someone like Richard Nixon, right? They're up in the office, come out, the Watergate tapes, and, if I say, Ed, God, it's just us in the room, nobody else won't know. Where is that stuff that's inside of you?
Yep.
That says, no, I'm not down with this.
No more.
This is not who I am. This is not how I was raised. This is not how I was brought up. This is not the people I come from.
Yeah.
Where is that? And absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's what they say. But having that opportunity, it really is a test of someone's integrity and honor, whether they're gonna really tell the truth when no one's looking. So I don't have much faith in those individuals that show their true colors, even though some of them might look like us. The ones that want to say, "We sick, boss." You know,
That's right. That's right.
I know I'm late in. I was having some technical difficulties, but I was wondering if, and one of the questions I wanted to ask Ms. Cruz was, when you first came to work for the Paynes, it was like 1996. Do they ask any of those retrospective questions, like what was it like then compared to now? Like what were your first days like working in the office? If not, then what was it like in 1996 in the first days working?
Well, 1996, I was a baby. When I first started, I have a story. I actually came from a program for women that were on welfare, single moms. And the lady that was in the program, I used to work in a travel agency. So she thought she went to high school with Congressman Payne, Miss Gaskin. She passed away also. And she thought I would be a great fit for his office. So when I first started, I knew nothing I voted, but I didn't know anything about members of Congress. So I was like a blank slate. But once I got there and I realized what the impact was, I just started being like a sponge and absorbing everything that they taught me. And Maxine James, the chief of staff, took me under her wing and taught me everything that she knew. And it was just an experience that changed my life, as you can see. So I just loved working for Congressman Payne Sr. and Congressman Payne Jr. But to make a small story, when I was there about 6 or 7 years, I got offered a job by then Senator Corzine, and I had gotten the job, but then I talked to Congressman Payne Sr. and I told him, I had been offered this opportunity, but I liked the way he was, and I liked the way he worked with the community, and that he was an honest person. So if he would give me the opportunity to grow in the office, I would stay. So the rest is history. Which is, I learned so much. I became his right hand, and then of course I became Junior's right hand. When it's just been an amazing journey. I loved every second of it. So I've learned so much from them. So two honest men. They really wore the name honorable, because everybody that's honorable doesn't deserve the title, but they both deserved it because they were honorable people.
Say that. That's right. That's right. Isabel, let me ask you this, because we begin to wind down. Before, he got so faithfully sick, what was on the agenda for him in his office, looking ahead, if he were here, and very much with us doing his thing? What were the things that he really wanted to get done that he didn't get a chance to finish?
So one of the things, he's working on the Portal Bridge, his colorectal cancer, his peripheral artery disease. And one of the things that he did, he liked to be active in the community. We had different programs like the African American History Month program, where we honored 6 people from the community. Women's History program, we just had that program in February, and then the program in March. We always like to honor people that worked hard in the community. So the last program that we had was for Women's History Month, which we honored women that worked in the health industry that were there for women, because so much is going on with women's reproductive health, that he decided to make sure that women that were working in that area were honored for being of service to women. So I know going forward, he wanted to make sure that everything was tight in everything that we did in all our programs, in all our community service, our mobile offices, because we used to have mobile offices. He would go to the city council meetings and do a congressional update with everything that he was doing. So just being out there in the community and making sure that the people get the service that they deserved.
Well, you know what? We're going to give, you and Eric the last words as we come to the end of this. I want to just say thank you for coming. And, we're here all summer doing the Payne Report. And so, you don't need an invitation. Eric is going to be here. So if you're afraid to come with us, come with Eric, and we're going to keep pushing.
You come with me, you safe. You know that. Me and Ed, we got you. You safe with me and Ed.
Yeah. I wanted to know, but Eric will be here, so we got you. But But
Thank
you know,
you.
and we're gonna try and beat the drum to make sure that we talk about voting and we get some other people on, and you know, and we keep talking about it, because that's what, you know, he said he wanted to talk about up until the election, right? Because we used to, you know, we used to talk, you know, the Payne Report was give us the report from Washington, and then we'll talk about the community, and you know, and thank God you gave, you know, his accomplishments. I appreciate that. I probably have to go back now and edit you, and then find a way to be able to put them on so I can run them myself, you know. So I'm gonna give you and Eric the last word of the Payne Report before we close out.
And don't forget to ask Isabel a ritual question. This is her first time with us, I think, right?
Okay. So let's let Eric go first, because I don't, you know, and then we'll let her close it out. Any last words, Eric?
Well, I'm going to encourage her a bit, like we've been talking about, to vote, and to learn the game. You know, learn what politics, what government is about, and the rules that we're forced to live by in society. Because once we learn that, then we can learn how to achieve and overcome the many obstacles that these individuals will throw in our way. Because rest assured, they're up all night long thinking about ways to take our rights away, to
right.
push us back years ago, and to not respect our humanity. Yep. And so as we fight for each other, remember that, you know, we're all family. So, you know, we got to stick together, get out there and represent it. And don't forget the people that you love, how it can help, and the people that sacrifice for us to be in this position. Isabel, you have someone in office there that maybe might want to say hello to my brothers here. Can get that person to just to hop in there and real quick.
Not that guy. Not that guy. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I just stopped. This is not my first time.
What's up, Bill?
All right, how you doing? Good.
Oh man. So y'all should have brought him up this week, because now, oh my God. Bill came on and blew us away with this book he had that he had when he was in school, man. Dick and Jane blew us away with that book.
Oh yeah,
Little Black Sambo too.
That's it.
Yeah.
We didn't even know that stuff existed.
Yeah,
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
That's in our lifetime too, Ed.
I know, man.
There's a lot more that we have to do about changing our schools for our kids, and some of those white school districts that are not teaching anything the truth about what we has made contribution is very important. They're not, you know, not only the black kids learn about what we have done. We have to make sure that these kids that live in the suburban and white ones will not understand that so much that has been done by our folks need to be taught to them as well. And we need to insist. That this be taught. And I've been working for the last 20 years trying to make sure that contributions made by African Americans is part of the teaching that's required, not just in Newark, New Jersey, but throughout every single district there is, whether there's a white kid or black kid in school or not. But we have to make sure that we begin to continue to talk about the contributions that blacks made to make this country what it is. And when we talk about that, we're not talking just in Newark, New Jersey, but we're talking about everywhere. That we fought the revolution and all that. Listen, I mean, I can go on with this one day and talk about the whole thing. But we need to make sure now that we all make sure that our children who are in schools in the cities are being taught about what we did in the Revolutionary War and all that kind of thing. Yep. So we need to make sure that our parents go to the schools and make sure and demand that their children be taught our contributions, and that Bill Payne, you can be assured that I'm continuing to go into some of those other communities where no face left of ours appear there, but that are the textbooks that have us in them. That I'm trying to make sure that even though we may not have a black kid at that school out there, the book does teach about the contributions we made, and that's what I want to keep fighting for. I want to make sure everybody do that. Sorry to take too much of your time.
Oh, no apology needed, sir. Anybody just tuning in that has not tuned in before, you just heard the voice of the legislative father of the Amistad bill,
Yep.
which is supposed to
Yep.
ensure that every public school, not just in black communities, in brown communities, but in every public school, our
That's
history
right.
is properly infused in every single grade and every subject matter, so
That's right.
folks can be educated out of their racism. That's how that's supposed to go.
That's
And we
right.
thank you for that, sir.
Well, thank you all.
My last point was like, if you want me to come back, I'll bring some of his other accomplishments because that's only one
Sure.
little bit of it. And
You're
we can
welcome back,
go
like I told you, every month. So
Thank you.
the Payne Report is from 6 to 7 every first Friday, and Bill has been on a couple of times, and
I'll bring him along.
we Bill is a treasure trove. We love him. We pray for Bill, and we thank God every time he come on, because we just shut up and let him go, because we all get an education because he's still here. So we love having Bill on. So thank you very much, Ms. Cruz. We got a question for you that we ask everybody, right?
Okay.
So that's why I wanted to make sure Eric went first, so you didn't hear it. So we ask everybody, right? This is a political hip hop radio talk show. Now I know you've been around in there for 20 years, so you must have heard some hip hop somewhere. What's your favorite hip hop song? Group?
Hooray! Ho! Hey!
Uh-oh.
So who's that?
I can't tell you what it is, but
Naughty by Nature? Hey.
Naughty by Nature, yeah.
oh,
Hey.
Where do you people learn that?
Yeah.
Mine is Juice. Mine's got to be Juice. Guess I didn't know the ledge.
Yeah. Well, listen, we thank you both.
Thank you for having me.
Coming on, and Brother Pill, listen, man, we love you, and thank you, brother, for all the work you've done for us, and you don't need an invitation, man. We just love to hear you educate us, man. So thank you. And Eric, thanks for coming on, man, to do the Payne Report with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Yes, sir.
All right, man.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
All right, everybody.
All right.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Payne Report continues. Yes. Now we should have coming up is Pam. We get feedback from somewhere. Mic check. Everybody hear me okay? Pam is still trying to get on.
Yes, I can hear you.
There you go. All right. Now just
Good evening, Kings.
hey, beloved. Let me just set this up.
Right?
Huh?
We expecting someone else?
That's it. No, that's it. We're good. We're good now.
Okay.
She was just having a little trouble getting in. Today is National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and this weekend is Wear Orange Gun Violence Awareness Weekend, and tomorrow there's a whole spate of action all over the country, and several right here in New Jersey, that a lot of our forces doing community-based violence intervention work are either leading or participating in a very meaningful way. And two of those actions are led by these two leaders here. Pamela Johnson, who's Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition Movement, who has been here before, right? It's not her first rodeo with us, is doing their 6th annual Unity Walk to mark tomorrow's uplift. And the Trenton Community Street Team is doing their own action early in the day on the streets of Trenton. So just to we want to lift up those actions and why they're important to our community, but we also want to remind folks of the other players doing this work. Perry and Pam, y'all know that we have a lot of folks that do this work that are on regularly, particularly the New Community Street Team, our deputy mayor, who was head of our Office of Violence Prevention and came right out of our circles in the streets. Keisha, a bunch of our new folks have been on this microphone around this work for a minute. Perry, this is your first time with us.
Yeah.
Before you tell us the Trenton Community Street Team story, it's important that you tell your story. What brought Perry Shaw III to this work, because this ain't no easy work. This is work that, we've lost some people, in the streets doing this work just within the last year. We want both folks to be real clear about this myth that we carry, right? So what does Perry Shaw or what does a good brother like Perry Shaw wind up doing, this hard kind of, in the trenches work that's so important, but very difficult to do for our people?
So for me, it's something that was passed down to me from my parents, to be of service. They both were of service all their lives, from the time they both moved up here from down south up until their passing not too long ago. That's kind of where I come from, was to be of service and to come to this work not judging, to come to this work with empathy, and to come to this work understanding that our community is hurting, understanding that trauma knows no bounds, that it reverberates, especially gun violence. A loss in one household is a loss in the community. And I felt that loss with my family, and I don't want anyone else to continue to feel that loss. So for me, it's wanting to try to be a solution holder, try to be a bridge gapper, and try to just be there as a support system to my community, because I don't want to see the pain to continue on.
And you can elaborate. You can definitely elaborate on that story, right? Oh, sure. Because people should appreciate where this stuff comes from, right? And how we deal with it, right? This ain't no popularity contest. Right?
It surely ain't. It's not popular because a lot of times you're dealing with truth, and people are not ready for the truth in more ways than one. When it comes to this work, people want simple solutions, and the realistic thing is there is no simple solution to the work that we do. We have a lot of people in our community who really want the help but don't know how to receive the help or how to get the help. They don't even realize that they're traumatized. They don't even realize the fact that throughout their lives they have been through so much trauma, and that when we're dealing with them, we're not dealing with the person, we're dealing with them in their trauma response. And with this work, I continue to say that people want simple solutions. They want a moment, and we're focused on having a movement. I always tell everybody in our community that we're focused on eradicating gun violence in Trenton, and some people laugh. And I tell them over and over again, it might not happen in our lifetime, but it's going to happen. It's about us collaborating and realizing that we are who we've been waiting for a long period of time. Nobody's going to come save us. We got to save ourselves, and we got to be willing to do the work and understand that when it comes to this public safety ecosystem, that the community has to be at the forefront. We ain't the police. We ain't trying to defund the police, but we're going to define the police, because the community needs to be at the forefront. The community is the ones that can find those solutions and move forward in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. So now, so what then? How then does the Trenton Community Street Team story emerge? How did that start? What was the background? What was happening in Trenton, and how are you doing with the work as you've been doing it since your beginning?
So our origin story is a little unique. Of course, before we even thought about putting a street team together, we went to Newark. We talked to the brothers and sisters out there and really just had hard conversations and talked about their origins and how they got started. And they told us some of the good and some of the bad, so that way we can avoid making some of the mistakes they made in the beginning. And the thing about it was that they told us over and over again, it's not going to be easy work. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be rewarding. And it has been. Trenton Community Street Team itself is kind of unique because it's made up of 3 entities. The first is Isles, which is a larger nonprofit that's been around for about 50 years. And then you have a smaller nonprofit called Fathers and Men United for Better Trenton. They've been in this community for about 20 years and focusing on trauma response work and working in the community. And then you have my organization, Building a Better Way for Trenton. So not only am I the director of Trenton Community Street Team, I'm executive director of a nonprofit that's 1/3 of Trenton Community Street Team. The reason why there's 3 entities is the fact that you have the larger entity that has the capacity to be able to get reimbursed for funding, whereas smaller nonprofits like myself don't have that. And so the goal was to do 2 things: to build capacity for my nonprofit, and then also for Trenton Community Street Team in year 4 to fall under my nonprofit, because it's important that we have community-based organizations leading these entities, leading this charge, leading this work. And that's what we've been trying to work towards. When we come to this work, focusing on trauma, focusing on trying to have our community understand what trauma is and how trauma can be worked through, because trauma will be with you, yes, but you can learn how to work through your trauma. And so with us, we have a whole array of training that we focus on. We make sure that our team has support when it comes to mental health as well. We have a licensed therapist on staff, and we have licensed psychologists on staff, because with us doing our incident response, our violence response, we come across a lot of trauma. We want to make sure that our team is well. We want to make sure that they have the support that they need so they can be supportive to the community. And so we've been around for about 2 years. We've done the numerous great things. We do things like safe passage. We do things like doing community walks. We have our thesis, which stands for Trenton Health Education Safety Information Sessions. That's what most people call their public safety roundtable discussions. We bring together policy holders, policy makers, policy breakers. We bring together the community, bring together law enforcement. We bring together individuals and organizations that sometimes are not at the table. And we continue to tell people when they come to the table, listen, this isn't about inviting Trentonians to the table. All we're going to do is help them set their own table. This is their table. You can't invite people to something that they own. And we need to remember that. And that's why I continue to say the community has to be at the forefront.
Right on to that. Right on to that. So tell us about tomorrow.
So tomorrow is something that this is going to be our first time doing. We're putting together a march. The march is multifaceted. One aspect of it is to focus on those that we have lost, but also focus on those that are still here, their family members. We want to focus on the fact that a lot of times people just focus on that person that's passed away, but they don't focus on the family and how they've been affected by this violence. They don't focus on the fact about how the community's been affected by this violence. And we're also going to focus on people in general needing and having the support and health and welfare that they need, and making sure that people's voices are heard. And so we'll be marching in different areas that have been affected by gun violence. We want to make sure that we hit the high target areas. We just want to march by the State House. Yes, we're in Trenton, but we're not going to march by the State House. We're going to make sure that we march in areas that have been affected by gun violence, making sure that we say the names of those that we lost, making sure that we are also honoring the community coming together for the benefit of those that we lost as well. And so we'll be getting started at 9 a.m. We're going to say a few words before we hit the streets. And then at 9:15, we'll be marching. We're going to march to our Catwater Park, which is our main park in the city of Trenton. And then we're going to have an event that's in collaboration with Moms Demand Action, where we're going to be having free food. We're going to be having service providers there, and also an honoring ceremony on stage as well.
Moms Demands Action was been the national driver of gun violence awareness week, and they have a big action today in Summit. Or I would have had some of them on with us today too. Let me ask you this one thing before I transition to Pam. Since you started, what kind of relationship reaction have you gotten from local law enforcement in Trenton?
So with us, I always clarify, we don't have a relationship with police. We have a professional understanding. Because when you say those words, relationship, you kind of get different ideas and thoughts.
Make it plain.
So I'm clear about the fact that we have a professional understanding. We have this understanding because we let it be known what we expect and what we want to see. And if we don't see it, we're gonna have a conversation. And we're gonna make sure that respect is on all levels. We understand that they have a job to do, and they're gonna respect the job that we have to do. Being the fact that we are public safety professionals, I let them know, listen, you have EMT, you have firefighters, you have the police, and you have the street team.
That's right.
And so respect that level, respect how we work, respect how we move, and we'll do the same. But if you do something wrong or disrespectful to us or to the community specifically, then we're gonna have a problem. But overall, the professional understanding has been consistent. We've invited them to the table when we have our discussions. Sometimes those conversations are testy, but at the same time, you got to have those tough conversations in order to get to the truth. And that's what we focus on. Because for a long period of time, our community has been told a bunch of lies. For a long period of time, people have not been held accountable. And we focus on accountability. We ask the police to hold themselves accountable. We make sure the community holds them accountable. Make sure the community holds us accountable. And so it's accountability on all fronts.
Answering that, why is that question important? It's important for several reasons. One, because that's the character of our work, right? That our credibility is based on our commitment to our community coming from those streets, and by virtue of having to survive not just the streets, but the oppression that police have represented by targeting our people in a way that other communities don't get targeted, and they need to respect how we have reemerged in our community in the way that we have reemerged. And it matters on several levels, but most importantly, it matters that when police are respectful, the work gets better done. We're able to reach more people, right, without interference. When there is hostility from the police, it makes dangerous work more dangerous, and it limits the impact and the quality of the work that we have or that we can have in the community. We've been, our work in Newark takes place in the context of Newark's police being under fire of a federal consent decree. We raise hell in these streets to clean our police department up, right? Trenton is getting ready to go through a federal consent decree, but there's been some problems down there, right? Patterson, even though the Attorney General has taken over the police in Patterson, the relationship to community-based violence intervention work is still fundamentally hostile, right? It cost us the life of one of our interventionists in Patterson when he was calling for his crew to help him in a mental health crisis, and the police blocked it. So that relationship in all of its varied levels is important to take apart and to be able to deal with. So we just wanted to do that so you could check in with the broader community, just let everybody know how you're rolling, right? We appreciate that, son. We're gonna definitely have you back. And I want to talk to both of you also in the same conversation about a tool that Equal Justice USA does called Trauma to Trust that might help improve that relationship. That it was very helpful here in Newark. And let me bring my queen back into this conversation. The great Pamela Johnson, pioneering the work in Jersey City, a survivor of gun violence herself, right? And this is her 6th annual walk, right? Pam, remind our community when we had you on, we were talking about police brutality. You really haven't been on to talk about what you actually do, right?
I know.
I just want to say before Pam starts speaking, because I have to jump off soon for another engagement. I've never met Pam, and I'm a Jersey City resident, but I know Pam. I know her work, so I want you to know that, and you as well, Mr. Shaw. I just want you both to know that there are residents who live in the cities, and we might not have done a walk yet. I'm going to change that. Let me know what time the walk is tomorrow and where. There might not be people that you've ever met and know, but, if you're doing it for real in your city, people know who you are and they know what you do. And so I just want to thank you. Never met you, but have heard about you and followed your work for a long time. So thank you.
Reputation matters.
Well, thank you so much, Queen. I think that was a better introduction than what the King gave me, in the beginning.
Reputation matters.
Representation does matter. I'm happy to be here again with you today, of course. We're kicking off We're Orange Gun Violence Awareness Weekend, June 7th to the 9th. There's so many things happening across New Jersey, and I'm just excited to see, everyone just becoming a part of the change that they want to see. And we are the change, right? And we know that. I'm excited to be here once again. Yes, I am a gun violence survivor. A long time ago. My son is 26. It was, 27 years ago now. And so, thankful that I survived. And me and a couple of my girlfriends and a couple of other friends were shot at the same time. One of us was the target, but none of us really was the target. It was a youth, and so the same thing that's happening now with our youth and trying to find other ways, to address their trauma and, trauma recovery and treatment and healing and all of that. We find ourselves doing that same work much, much later. And I didn't know that God would bring me to this point, but I'm happy that he's using me.
So you 6 years in on this particular walk, this particular action. Where was the Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition movement 6 years ago, and where are you now?
So we are actually 10 years in doing this work in Jersey City. We were formed in 2014. It was a stressful time in our community where we lost a police officer, and we also lost a community member who unfortunately killed that police officer, and he was killed as well. And it was just very tense. And, we residents were on social media just talking about what can we do. And literally the movement was started on social media, and 6 people responded, and we had our first meeting in my mom's kitchen, because all the magic happens in the kitchen. And and we literally named the organization, back in June of 2014. This work had started in Jersey City. And before we did that, we researched to see if there was an existing organization that maybe we just didn't know about, right? Because not only are we doing this work in Jersey City, we also live in the communities who's concentrated by violence, right? I'm born and raised on the South Side. That's south of Communipaw. If you're coming from Newark or coming from different areas, anything south is the South Side, and that's where all the violence is. It's either on the South Side or in housing complexes that are spread out throughout Jersey City. And so we did research, like, is there any entity that we can join? Can we volunteer? There was none. And so we started our own, because we don't believe in reinventing the wheel either. We are workers, and we are to be used in whatever way that God sends us. And so we created something that didn't exist. We talked to our health department, and it's 10 years ago, and we were like, listen, you got to look at violence a different way, because the way you're addressing it simply with law enforcement is not working for our communities. It's not working in our neighborhoods. It's not working for our people. And so we need you to look at this like a public health concern, a health epidemic. Treat the root causes of violence the same way you would do diabetes or blood pressure, high blood pressure, or any other, disease or condition where there are root causes of it. And so let's talk about poverty. Let's talk about, those schools with the high suspension rates and the lack of the low graduation rates and just the lack of attendance rates. Those are the low performing schools in our city, and they're on the South Side. Let's talk about housing and the lack of housing and the homeless conditions and substance abuse and, just trauma in general, mental health issues. Those neighborhoods on the South Side are overwhelmed by conditions that are neglected by our government, basically. And so we started working. I think our first thing we did was a survey. Because it's not, we don't want to sound like we know everything. I want the people to tell me what's wrong and what they see. I live here, but also there are thousands of people who also live here. And once we got that survey going and got the data, and then we started going to city council meetings in 2014 and just talking about what we were, seeing, and not just from our eyes, but from the voices and the eyes of those in our communities who feel like they are just left to fend for themselves. They don't feel a part of their own community, and most of them are born and raised here. Gentrification started happening a couple of years after that, and then it was just really crazy. And so, we started out as a gun violence, Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition movement. We're now the Anti-Violence Coalition of Hudson County, because we didn't have a 501c3 then. But we do now. And, I heard the brother saying, talking about grants and being reimbursed, we're able to do that when back then we had a fiscal sponsor. But we don't need that anymore, because we are the expert. We are the authority here in Jersey City and in Hudson County on violence, on trauma recovery, and on treating, the root causes of violence to make sure that we're allowing families to be in a better position to live a successful life. And that's what we're basically here to do. And we would have been 10 years in the Unity Walk if COVID didn't happen. So we had to cancel it for 3 years because of that. But other than that, we would have kept going, because, this day, which is always the second week in June, prior to us even learning, because we learned a lot. We didn't know, about the movement when it developed, as far as Wear Orange and Gun Violence Weekend and all that. We didn't know, national things about, what was going on. We knew what was happening locally. And I'm like, we used to have an MLK parade when I was younger. And it would come down Martin Luther King Drive. And my dad, who is deceased now, but a retired warden of the Hudson County Jail, my mom, who's still with us, thank God, she's retired internal affairs of the Hudson County Jail. So my parents were within the system, but in their neighborhoods, they were the leaders, right? So I love the fact that they were able to be a part of that system, but stand up against what was happening to our people once they were incarcerated. You know, my mom was investigating correctional officers. My dad was a warden, but at the end of the day, he was highly recognized nationally and in our county and locally because he was a different kind of warden. You know, this was a warden who started an automotive program by getting the police officers, instead of disposing of cars that no longer work, give us the cars so I can teach the people who end up coming home how to work on an automobile. You know, he started a choir, you know, for individuals who wanted to be on a spiritual journey. And that choir, every Sunday, they were allowed to come outside of the walls of the jail and sing, you know, in churches and mosques and just spiritual places throughout Jersey City and Hudson County. That was not happening before he became the warden. And he just put together so many community-based programs and allowing individuals from the community to come within the jail, which was not happening then either, to speak to individuals, to mentor them, to educate them, to give them something tangible. So when they came back on the streets, they weren't thinking about, you know, the first thing that they can do to make money, because there was a plan already put together, and that plan was going to help them succeed when they were on the outside. And so I commend my parents for really navigating through that system, because it's a dirty system. It's a dirty system, and they were two African Americans and they did their thing. And so I commend them for putting that into me, and I'm doing it from the outside of the system, you know, but wherever it works at is where it works.
I have never heard you talk about your parents like that. And that stuff about your dad is cutting edge, rich stuff, right? And we need to lift that up in some other ways, because that is local Black history, political heritage that definitely needs to be claimed. And it's one of the bedrock foundations of the work that we do as credible messengers.
Yes, absolutely.
I
mean, he was the most credible that I could see. Okay. Right. My dad, we used to be at the kitchen table, and he used to say, we talking about, you know, how was your day? And he said, I'm not going to tell you guys how my day was, because I'm jailing every day. I'm probably the only warden across this country that's jailing with their inmates every day, because every day I'm walking those floors. I'm not in my office talking about how punitively we can punish and do this and that. I'm in those spaces talking about how we can, you know, make sure that we're, you know, changing lives of people, like really rehabilitating people on what they need to be rehabilitated in, right? Not what we think, but what they think, you know, and transition them safely from here back home in a better situation. So I really commend him. Like I said, we lost him on New Year's Eve this year. Well, last year, but New Year's Eve, but it was he had a wonderful day with my mom, and it was joyous. And he was 83 years old, and we're able to take what he taught us and persevere and continue to be resilient and determined.
Now, there's another nugget that you lifted up that is right at the crossroads of where this work needs to go in New Jersey. You lifted up that in your beginnings that you were having conversations with your local health department, right?
Absolutely.
We just lost one of your neighbors.
Absolutely.
We just lost Drew, mental health crisis with a history in a town that had money on the table already.
On the table.
Put together
legislation, ordinance checked and passed and signed.
Nothing with it, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, that was as a consequence of that, right? And Perry, you have since joined our New Jersey Violence Intervention Programs Coalition, so you're getting a good taste of how we roll, right?
Yeah.
We pushed for the Najee Seabrooks, Andrew Washington bill. We wanted that to live where in the state of New Jersey? The health department. The health department, in all of its privilege and all of its whiteness, was absolutely clueless as to what the hell we were talking about. So when it's not there, where is it? It's in the Attorney General's office, which is the last place that we wanted to be, because there's law enforcement, and law enforcement has a tendency of getting in the damn way, right? With the authorities hang up.
And
so
we can
have a conversation that we're trying to start with the health department to bring these health professionals and all of their institutional privilege into the 21st century, because this work is happening all over the country. And it's absolutely obscene that a state health department is oblivious to how it's happening, the way it's been happening in the state of New Jersey just in the last 5 to 6 years. So I just wanted to lift that up. Now tell us about tomorrow before we run out of time.
Yes, I don't want to run out of time, but I do want to say, because you can't bring that up without bringing up the fact that we were already advocating for this type of work to be, housed in the health department.
Right.
For CBVI, for BOCA, because we know where it needs to be, right? And so this is just another hurdle of us trying to, uplift the voices that we've been using, our voices, because we are who we need. Our own voices to continue that narrative, right? And we'll do just that. Now tomorrow, so I'm always so nervous before the day before, the week before the Unity Walk, because
you do so well.
I know, but it's all about attendance. It's all about attendance, and we don't register folks because a lot of folks don't like to register anywhere, right? They just want to show up, like, I'll be there, girl, and we love that too. And it always works. And tomorrow is going to work. And so MLK Drive means a lot to us. And a lot of our shootings happen. And those, like the brother said, they're going to march tomorrow in Trenton. They're not marching to the Capitol, the State House, or wherever. They're marching in neighborhoods where violence happens. They're going in those communities where they do the work. And so MLK is important for us to march down. And we're marching from the beginning of MLK to the end. It's a 2.5, almost 3 mile walk. And then we're crossing over to Monticello. And then we're going to walk down Belmont into Lincoln Park. And I mean, so throughout the walk, it's just beautiful. So of course, we invite our local high schools, the strutters, the armed guards. We invite the bands and they come out, and the drums, and, the fire department has a fire engine. The hospital has a ambulance just in case there's an emergency that happens, because we want to look after the people, right? We have, volunteers who are controlling the crowd. We have officers who are doing traffic control. I want to say we've never had to pay for our officers before, but COVID happened, and I think there was some mismanagement of funds, and now we have to pay for officers. So after almost $4,000 bill for police officers to block traffic, we got it done now. They'll be there tomorrow. And it's just going to be a beautiful time where we're going to have vehicles who can drive seniors who can't walk the entire route. We're going to have water stations all the way down MLK, and just the community marching together against gun violence and against inequality and injustice in our community, right? So that's always our message: gun violence, inequality, and injustice, because we stand for none of that. And that, a lot of that is always happening around gun violence. There's always inequality. There's always injustice in certain neighborhoods, right? And that's what we fight against every day. This one day is just to remind us of all the work that we've done
and all the work
that's ahead.
That's
and it's also there to fill our cup up, because it gets empty a lot. And so once we arrive at Lincoln Park tomorrow, there is a team at Lincoln Park setting up. And there's a team to start at the walk to register folks, give out T-shirts and all of that, right? And the folks at Lincoln Park, they're waiting for us. They're organizing the park. We have vendors from if we can get every nonprofit in Hudson County, we would. But there are so many events tomorrow. But we have vendors there. Nobody's selling anything, because we don't sell anything. We're giving away stuff, whether it's education, literature, giveaways, things for family members, whatever it is, that's what we do. And so those tables will be set up. We'll have the barbecue area where we have a chef that's cooking for 300 people. We always try to prepare for 300 minimum people, right? Whether they all show up or not, which they usually do, because we never have food to take home. And just tents that are up, arts and culture area with arts and crafts for kids, face painting, stage with performing. We have a band coming in, and they'll be performing for 2 hours. It's going to be beautiful. And there will be this much of talking. I say welcome. I'm so happy to see you. Thank you so much for coming. Let's continue the work. Have fun. And then we go right into our thing. And it's just a great, fun day of just engagement, breaking bread, unity, that family, and that thing that make you just, feel good inside. And so I'm looking
That's right. That's right. And he's been quiet, but I got the founder of our show is a middleweight lawyer, right? Who happens to live in Jersey City. So he's taking it all in. I know he's taking notes for tomorrow, right?
Yes, please.
Too, right? He's from Newark, but he lives in Jersey City.
All right. Well, come on. I don't care where you live at. It's okay, or where you're from, rather. But you live here now. We do accept some folks, some newcomers now. But I just tell newcomers, if you're coming in to just live here, you're in the wrong community. But if you're coming here to get involved, when you have time, I understand you're busy, but when you got a little time, come to the block association meeting, come to city council meeting, and engage with us, because we're here for the long haul. We're invested. We got skin in the game. That's right. This is our city. So join us. Now,
I'm trying to do this as quick as I can, but definitely have to get this in too, right? Somebody I know that looks just like you is also all of a sudden been asked to run for city council. We have you back as a council candidate, right? But tell us just briefly about your candidacy and when the local election is.
Absolutely. I was like, they say we have a twin, but then I realized you were talking about me. So actually we got started early. I was asked to run on a ticket last year by a family friend of mine who was a gracious friend to my dad and good friend to my mom and my family. I met him when I was a teenager, maybe a little younger than that. I don't want to give his age, but Bill O'Day, he's a commissioner here in Jersey City. He's running for mayor, and he asked me last year to be on his ticket, and we announced this year that I'm on his ticket. The election is not until November of 2025. So we got time. We're stepping out early, right? And we've been just, it's the funny thing is when you're really working in your community and when you're really doing what your purpose is, I don't have to pretend to be anybody else. Like I can just be Pam Johnson all day, so I don't have to create a fake, agenda that I'm going to address, because I've been addressing it for the last 10 plus years. And I don't have to do anything magnificent by doing barbecues and block parties and stuff, because I've been gathering my people for 10 plus years. And so I'm looking forward to this election. I am running for a councilwoman at large under William O'Day's ticket, Commissioner William O'Day. And these are community folks. None of the team, I won't announce it for him, but none of my team members are anyone who's like, oh, we need to run them because, they're of this race or ethnicity, or, they're just somebody who someone may have heard of, or, we just need somebody to pad the ticket. These are all workers, baby, from sweeping the sidewalks to having events like this, to, sitting in folks' houses on the weekends when we're off, because we're never really off, to trying to resolve community problems. So from advocating with, I love how you said it, brother, from the policy makers, the policy breakers, I'm gonna say the policy shakers too, because some of them be trying to get up there and shake things up, and I don't know if they're on either side, right? And so I just think it's a wonderful thing to see, folks who are running, those ordinary but truly extraordinary people. Those are the folks that we need in office.
Right on. Now, my other co-founders coming in to serve as our time marshal, right? The great Jonathan Austin.
Okay.
Right?
Well, no, not to serve as time marshal. I just really technical difficulty, so I'm just getting back in. So, but we do have a guest that's coming on soon, but they're not on yet.
Oh, okay. So while to wind down, this is Perry's first time. Why don't you ask Perry our ritual question and then shift to Pam?
We are a hip hop talk show. We mix all of these things up. One of the things that we ask all of our guests is, who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group, who you're rocking with now, or who best fits your inspiration in this segment?
So for me, I'll always go tried and true Sean Carter, because the evolution of that man, and also the depth of knowledge when he rhymes, and also storytelling. So I can relate on multiple levels. I think about from the time I first heard him, when he used to rap fast, up to the time I was in college. And think about Reasonable Doubt. He used to literally pop my deck because I used to play it so much, up until his last album as well. Seeing the evolution of the stories they told, and sharing experiences about his mother and things of that nature. So we'll go with Sean Carter.
All right.
You know what?
Reasonable.
It's just an observation before we go to Pam. As successful as little brother is, as many people we have on this show every week, very few people lift him up. Y'all notice that? He doesn't
Fair,
get
but he's one of the best writers to ever do it, and just layered in what he does. And Reasonable Doubt's one of my favorite albums.
Yeah, that was definitely his extra base hit, right? All right, my goddess and queen, what say you? Who you?
Jesus. I mean, I'm a hip hop head and artist myself, so you know, I mean, I have a list. Jesus, I can't say one.
Materialist.
I can say, you know, Sean Carter's in my top 10. I can say in my top 5, I got Slick Rick, I got Tupac, I got Nas, I got Queen Latifah, and MC Lyte.
Okay.
But Sean Carter is in my top 10. But I'm gonna now that's who, like, you know, growing up and all of that. Yes, you know, I'm a 90s baby, and so yes. But I'm gonna tell you now, if y'all been following this rap beef, okay, with Kendrick and Drake, I've always been with Kendrick. He's in my top 10 too, Kendrick.
Okay.
But if when you did say who you like, who's on your list, and who you rocking with now,
Right.
And I'm telling you right now, every day I play Kendrick Lamar every day after that, right? And yeah, so right now, definitely because of what's going on, you know, at the top of on my brain, like when you, especially us, like we're in war mode a lot.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And so I need something that's going to get me like in my head.
Fire you up.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I'm rocking right now. But that's definitely my top 6, and Sean Carter is definitely in my top 10. And he does not get lifted up enough. You're right about that. So yes, Sean Carter. Yes.
And for people who like both a combination of Sean Carter, someone who is supported by him, and also you mentioned MC Lyte. Check out Rhapsody. Rhapsody got a new album out. She is underrated. If you like lyricism, if you like like depth of lyrics, the way someone delivers, check out Rhapsody. She's underrated.
I'm gonna have to check her out. So I did just see an interview she had on The Breakfast Club, and they were asking her what she thought about the Kendrick Lamar Drake thing, and she was like, "He ate them up. He cooked them. He stir fried them. He just ate them." And I was like, "Yes, girl," but I have not listened to her. So thank you for saying that, because
it wasn't a fair fight. Come on now, it wasn't a fair fight.
No, it wasn't. No, but it was a great one.
I'm saying when you got the LA Dodgers playing K-Dot song for the warm up, come on now.
When you got King James in the warm up singing it too, okay.
Come on.
No, it wasn't fair, but it was real.
Listen, you had people in church playing it the next week, changing the words a little bit. I was like, what?
No, it was crazy, but I loved every bit of it. And I do love lyricism, so I'm definitely going to look her up. Thank you, brother.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right, so now I'm going to miss y'all tomorrow. I actually have 2 memorials. Oh, you know, I'd be right in the street with you, Pam.
Oh, I know you be in these streets, so if I don't see you, I know you somewhere doing your thing, okay?
And I have to lift this up too, Ed. Tomorrow is the memorial of the great fallen Black Panther warrior, Sekou Odinga, who we lost in January. And one of our people's warrior lawyers, John Gibbs, both of them, their memorials are both tomorrow. So I'll be in New York acting like a radical priest that I'm not, because I ain't a priest, right? Taking care of their memorials. So I will definitely miss y'all tomorrow, but I'll be carrying with you, and had to get you on the mic. Let you
absolutely. Thank you so much, King. We truly appreciate it. Perry, I feel like I met you before at an event, but I need to I need to get in touch with you. I need to come to Trenton. I want to know what's up.
Definitely, vice versa.
And I want to talk to both of you at some point about how trauma to trust might be a tool that you can use. And with Trenton getting ready to go through some federal oversight, you might be more built for that conversation right now than so we got some more work to do with police in Jersey City, Pam.
Right, I know.
Y'all win, y'all win.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, we don't have time, but you know, I'd have my run-in with the police here too. Okay.
That's what you was on before. We couldn't even talk about your work.
Right.
You're so busy dealing with their mess.
Right. But you know, the community stood behind me, and we got through it. And they were, I mean, no body cams like the lies you tell, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
As long as the truth came out.
Tell it.
It's important for what's
Harry, is that your number? Okay, I got you.
Brothers, I just want to say this, that you mentioned about Trenton being under federal investigation. The ironic thing was that the day it was announced was the day we had our public safety roundtable discussion. Good. And our guest was the director. And he stood in the circle and let chips fall as they may.
That's it. And you need that.
Shots, but he stood there and took them all and said, if anybody has any issues with any police in my department, here's my cell phone number. Yeah. And by the end of that meeting, it was contentious. It was sweaty. It was hot. But when he left, they all shook hands and was like, okay.
That's what's up. So you got to build on that. You got to build on that. Right on. All right. Well, you know, may the Creator and the ancestors be with both of y'all, right? The streets are ours. You know, blessed are the peacemakers, and y'all definitely getting it done. Right?
Absolutely.
Be in touch. Anything up, just give me a holler.
All right. Okay. Appreciate you. Have a great one.
All right. Y'all.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Now, where did Doshon go?
I think he just took himself out by accident. You know,
he's supposed to be up in the next segment.
He is, and someone else supposed to be with him, right?
I don't know who else is coming on with him. I just found out that Doshon was actually coming on this morning.
Yeah,
Doshon, come jump back in. This guy that's got he's done had 4 or 5 shows. Why are you taking yourself out?
I don't know what that was.
Oh, there you go. All right, we just make sure your sound is good. All right, okay, all right.
And
so
John seemed to be having some technical difficulty because
he's been back and forth with that all night.
Yeah,
there he is.
Hey, so hopefully I got it somewhat sorted out. This has just been real interesting in terms of just the technical difficulties on and out and in and out. But I think I'm back for a little bit, at least for a little bit right now. Did you get into or started with that conversation?
No, Doshon slipped out just as you slipped out.
Okay. All right, man. So it's a conspiracy. I think it's a conspiracy. They're trying to keep us from talking to each other, man. They're just trying
to nobody but the right wing.
right. Or the left wing, probably. I mean,
as Julie would say, it's on the same bird. The left
right. It could be anybody. And that probably brings us to the thing I wanted to bring Doshon on here for, right? Like, as you know, he's a incredible reporter. He has been doing work for years. And we talked earlier today, and I was like independent journalist because that's how I most known him, as like the person who's always like doing various talk shows, doing like whether it's Tavis Smiley or whether it's brother used to be on CNN. If there's black media, Doshon has been there, he's spoken on it, he's had conversations with folks, and he's been there really trying to report and understand the things that are going on in the black community, right? And so you before we get in there, you actually work for a new organization. Can you tell us something about them?
It's not new. It's well over a decade old. The GoPro Radio Network. As I told you before earlier, Brother John, Brother Zaid was on a few months ago. The GoPro Radio Network is based in Brooklyn. It was founded by Brother Tyron U. Xavier Washington. We have an actual studio, but we do broadcast now just like APAL, primarily online. There are several shows that are a part of the network. The one that Brother Zaid was on was, it comes on every Wednesday night, called Colored Only Cafe from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. And we have several panelists and we have featured guests, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So you have been doing a lot of this stuff for a while, man. Like, and I'm seeing in the news that it seems like a lot of blacks, a lot of Latinos are upset with Biden. They're starting to support Trump, right? And I don't know, like I saw the rally in New York, right? Where you had a bunch of black and Latino people like chanting the, build a wall, right? And there's it even anecdotally, right? When I'm talking to people randomly, right? Like or even some of our guests on the show, like Reverend Conrad Tillard, who will be much more supportive of Trump, right? And I'm like, this dude literally created violence in the Capitol because he didn't want to lose the election. Literally tried to overturn the American government as we know it and started a violent white-led insurrection. He says things that white nationalists are real cool with, that will go out and fight for him. He makes comments that like neo-Nazis are like dog whistles. And so the appeal to so many black people, right? So many Latino people. I'm trying to figure out, there was a recent poll that Pew Research did yesterday, and it was like, it said the numbers were like 78% for Biden, 18% for Trump, which is roughly what it was, right? Which is roughly what it was in the last election. And it was a little bit higher than it was, like roughly what it was in 2020, but a little bit higher than it was in 2016.
Right.
Is this just a figment of my imagination? Is this just the media playing tricks on me? Is the devil like what is going on? Why does it feel like he's gonna get a sizable share of black and Latino voters? Is it just Latinos who are like, yeah, man, Trump seems like a good idea this time? Or is it just, media?
Here's something to keep in mind. Right after Trump had won in 2020, a few months into his term, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Bill Maher had actually discussed this on his show, and he mentioned how Trump and Bernie Sanders, had shared the same voters. And by that we mean people who are anti-establishment, okay? Keep in mind that most of the people who support Trump, they see him as being anti-establishment. They see him as being not one of them. And remember, Trump tries to come across as if though he's a hero of the people. And what does he always say? What's stopping them from you is me. So he's presenting himself as being a political savior, if you would, almost like a political messiah. And so you have, and I'm going to speak now, I can't speak from the Latino perspective, but I can speak from the African American perspective.
And I think you're getting a little bit of static coming in. Is it just me? But I think on your end, I think there's some static coming in from your mic.
How about now?
Yeah,
Still a little staticky.
I don't know what that. I hope this connection isn't acting up.
You started off, and then static kind of jumped in on you.
Right. It started off really clear, then the static started jumping in.
What about now? Am I sounding like Max Headroom?
A little bit staticky. Try coming out and then coming back in again, and then we'll jump in right from there when we talked about your perspective. You can't speak from the black perspective, the Latino perspective, but could speak from the black perspective. Because I think that's like wild in many ways, and I'm trying to figure out, right? Like, am I out of touch? Because sometimes, when I'm talking to Conrad, to Reverend Tillard, I'm thinking maybe I'm out of touch, right? Maybe I don't understand what's going on. To so many people are like, seem to be supporting him who weren't supporting him before, or finding reasons to support.
Yeah.
Like, because for me, the fascism is already, he lost me. He lost me at you started a white riot, like a white riot in the Capitol, and you lost me there, right? He had lost me before.
He should have lost the whole country, but it didn't.
Hey, can you all, hello, can you hear me now? Am I sounding better?
No static.
No static?
No static.
Okay, what I was saying.
That's the thing. Everybody that participated in that and that were, cheering for it at home on their TV and on the internet, they're still around and they're hoping he gets back in. And all those folks did that stuff with the full expectation of some point him getting back in. So if they were ever, held accountable for what they did, they would be pardoned.
Right. And I want to go, and I want to start right where we left off with that question, right? You said you can't speak for Latino voters, but Black voters.
What I'm saying is that what I've gathered for quite some time is that many African Americans who are also anti-establishment, they see Trump also as being that a political savior. Let me tell you something. There were people within our circle, the Black conscious circle, Afrocentric, Black conscious, whatever you want to call us, who support Trump. Because remember, many people within our circle believe in, the Illuminati, the 10%, et cetera, bloodsuckers of the poor, that hidden, unseen hand. And so Trump is being seen as being against them, okay? And so you have quite a few, I'm talking about Black reparationists even, who support Trump because they feel, can you hear me?
Wait, so hold on, man. You're saying that people who support reparations are supporting...
Hold on, brother, now you're coming in shaky.
All right,
Hold on, you're coming in a little bit.
And I'm hearing static from you. Zaid, am I staticky again?
No, it's not you, man. It's Doshon's line again. And he's having some connection issues. Yeah, he went back out again.
Okay, so that was fascinating. That's fascinating, right? Like he's saying that in a circle of, there's some people who support reparations who are supporting Trump because they see him as pushing back against the Illuminati. Maybe he just represents a Rorschach test, right? Like he's all things to all people. To white nationalists, he's a white nationalist. To Reverend Tillard, he represents somebody who goes against the deep state and can get us out of wars, right? Like, I mean, that's one of the things he talks about. But none of these things ring true to what he actually says. Like if you ask, I mean, when you look at his actual policies and the things he supports, none of them, except for the white nationalist part, right? That seems to make sense. That's consistent. But in terms of the way he
talks brothers, can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you. Just a little bit of echo, but we can hear you.
Okay, that's because I'm in the classroom right now. What I was saying, John, there were many Black folk within as we refer to it, the Black conscious circles, who, just like with QAnon, who believe in the concept of the Illuminati, the bloodsuckers of the poor, the 10%, that hidden hand that many people believe rule the world. They see Trump as being anti that. And so you have many within in that circle that share that belief, and they see Trump as being that one white man that's against all that, okay? And because I'm not saying I agree with that, okay? But their thing is they see Trump as being a businessman. Yo, Trump, you're gonna give us our money, this, that, and the third. But let me tell you who, you've had people like our brother Irritated Genie, Young Pharaoh. I know one sister who's gonna remain nameless that actually Zaid met a long time ago, Afrocentric sister, HBCU grad. She was in the new Black Panther Party for a while, out of state, and she was a silent donor to Trump in 2020. And one time I called her.
Damn African mind.
She called me up, Brother Doshon. I called her. She said, Brother Doshon, I'm on my way to this Trump rally. But she said, I'm a silent donor. I know a brother in D.C., another reparationist who had voted for Trump I'm saying not 2020. This sister and the brother I'm talking about, 2016, when he ran the first time, that supported him. There's a brother in D.C., a lot of Black folk who see themselves as being anti-establishment, they, support Trump.
But did they do it in 2020? Because I think 2016, like, benefited the doubt, he hadn't been in office yet.
Right.
He was running against Hillary Clinton, who's seen as the establishment of the establishment. There's so many conspiracy theories surrounding her, and granted, similar stuff could be said about Joe Biden, but by the time that 2020 happened, you had the 4 years of his presidency where he made the head of Exxon as the Secretary of State. If there's no way you could be like, oh, he's against the 1% after he gave tax cuts to the rich. You put the person who's in charge of the largest oil company in the world in charge of like foreign relations.
Yeah, because these are people he did business with. He did business with a lot of these people when he was, during this time, when, before he got in office, he had financial business partnerships with some of these people. But that's where we lack critical thinking. But I'm going to tell you something.
But do they support him in 2020? Do they support him now?
Yes, many of them are still supporting him. Yes, I should say this because that number that you mentioned, I read the same study. From Pew Read, 18%, slightly larger. Yeah, 18%. That is considerable. But guess what? It actually, just like in 2020, you see in that number too, you have to look at the amount of, unfortunately, black men have been blamed for supporting Trump. But in 2020, there were a higher number of black women that supported Trump. And you see that now. You actually see that. Let me tell you something, John. Whatever Trump is doing, Brother Ntume has said on this show that for you, a billionaire, to get a bunch of backwoods rednecks to think that you're one of them, they're screwing us all. That is brilliant. But at the same time, Trump's support is very diverse. Okay, when I covered the Stop the Steal rally and the Stop the Steal march in 2020 after he lost, I can't tell you how many rainbow flags I saw out there. There were white and Latino gays and lesbians that supported Trump in 2020 and that's after
he got highly conservative justices on the Supreme Court who want to outlaw like contraception, right?
Same-sex marriage. But that was in 2020. I was there. I covered that for USA Live Stream. And like I said, Trump has his support. Yes, we can talk about open white supremacists supporting him, but there are people that you would be surprised who are supporting Trump.
So you have, the question I have is twofold.
Yes.
First, is this number growing? Or probably more damaging is the number of black people who are going to sit it out growing?
That is you know what, John, that is an excellent question. Okay, because right now you actually have a campaign. When I say campaign, I don't mean political. It's a political campaign, but I don't mean by people running for office. You have our brother Tariq Nasheed that he's a lot of our black social media personalities are pushing that. Tariq Nasheed, Vicky Dillard, Sister Michi X, many of them are pushing that black folks sit on the couch and not give our votes to the Democrats until we get our reparations. Yvette Carnell was now I don't want to say that about Yvette Carnell too much. I'm not going to speak on her too much, but she may have a similar position.
So, and so these are. So you think that there's maybe a perfect storm coming where there are going to be a few more black people who actually support Trump?
Yes.
A larger number of people who are like, no. And we're not even talking about the people who are like, F Biden over Gaza, can't do it, right? Because there's going to be a lot of people, like even in the primary, I put undecided on there just because I thought it was important to do that in the primaries, right? Like to make that statement. So if Biden is clearly doing things that incense Democrats, right? Progressive left, people who like are saying, I can do lesser of two evils, but I can't do mass murder.
And John, if I may interject, I'm gonna let you finish your point. Please let me interject. I don't like
interject.
And I was gonna put this on Facebook like for the past several weeks. This whole Gaza Israel situation, Biden just cannot win. You have people accusing him of mass genocide, but then you have the pro-Israeli side saying that he's not doing enough.
Right.
He cannot win. One thing I'll say about it, I'm not a fan of Biden. I'm a voter. I'm not a fan of Biden, but one thing I can say as an analyst, as I'm observing him, this situation, he cannot win either direction, no matter what he does, because both sides feel that he's doing something that he's not doing enough.
Right. Or doing too much, right? Or not doing
much.
enough to, and either not doing enough to support Israel, right? Like, or not doing enough to stop mass murder, right? And give a hard line. And they are trying to dance the dance, but they are not appeasing anybody, right? Like, everybody hates them on this, and it's affecting everybody's vote. I think the pro-Israel side is just going to vote for Trump straight up. They're going to be like, nah, right? As in the ones who feel.
Despite, and it's funny because remember, Trump in the past has made remarks that are considered anti-Semitic.
Right.
One thing about Biden hasn't said anything, quote, anti-Semitic, but Trump has. Trump, remember, they still approve of Trump, Israel, and many Jewish Americans. They praise Trump for saying that the capital of that Jerusalem is the proper place is Israel, not Palestine or Tel Aviv. He moved one of the. Didn't he
moved the capital from Tel Aviv out of Tel Aviv, right? To
Israel. We said it's not Palestine. He said that, and so they forever praising him for that. But right, the pro-Israeli side is definitely going to vote for Trump, and that doesn't just include Jewish Americans.
Right. I mean,
evangelicals.
Well, first of all, I would say that when we're talking about Jewish Americans, it's always split, right? Because it's not a monolith.
Right.
There are lots of Jewish Americans who are highly against what's going on, who are very dissatisfied and disillusioned about what's going on in Israel. But I know what you're talking about. You're talking about like the right wingers, the people who are like, hey, the avid AIPAC supporters, the people who are like, Biden needs to do that. The people who are like, no ceasefire necessary. If you're like, you just need to do more and the violence needs to increase. If you're a supporter of Netanyahu and that, you're not voting for Biden, right? There's no way, because Biden would not be in your interest. If you support Netanyahu, Biden would not be in your interest, right? So I think that Biden is really messing up on certain levels, because if he's appeasing Netanyahu, the only thing he's doing is appeasing people who are going to support Trump anyway.
That's right. But also, here's something else to keep in mind too. A point that I wanted to bring up now. Remember, we have to look at the indictment. We have to look at Trump being charged. Okay. The way the media keeps going after Trump, okay, they're making a martyr out of him. In other words, okay, because
so you're saying that just as when he was indicted the first time, he got more popular, his conviction is going to make him even more popular.
Right, the way they're going about it, because this is the thing. Yes, he should be held accountable now. However, the media can be very petty. We know that, whether it's coming from the left, whether it's coming from the right, but they're nitpicking with Trump. And so it's proving Trump's point. See, look, see, they're against me because I'm defending you all. And that's how his supporters are looking at him. It's looking in their mind, they're trying to frame it like Trump is being the victim of a political persecution, political witch hunt, crucifixion. But this is what I say. If this is a crucifixion, Trump handed them the nails and the cross. That's what I always say. If they're crucifying you, Trump, you handed them the nails and the cross. You put yourself in that position. However, on the other side of that, the way the media keeps going after him, you're making him into a martyr. And I was saying that the first time. I was saying that during the first impeachment. I said, be very careful how you go at Trump, because you're going to make a martyr out of him, and that's how he's being seen. Yesterday he spoke, I believe it was today or yesterday, he spoke at Turning Point USA at a big rally. That conservative organization. That's when he actually said that. I believe he said that Biden was weak on Israel.
Mm.
Right. He's still having these mass rallies, or being invited to these mass rallies.
And not only that, he said that, I believe, was that the rally where he said that he would engage in political persecutions out of revenge?
Yes. And remember too, here goes something else too, John. That rally he had in Brooklyn, not Brooklyn, in the Bronx over a week ago, that was serious.
Mm-hmm.
Biden is not getting the numbers like that. They're not coming out to see Biden the way they're coming out to see Trump. And that's not an illusion. That's not something, I mean, this is, these are nonpartisan news outlets that are showing this. Biden is not packing houses the way Trump is.
Right. And because Biden is not an exciting candidate, right? Biden is only a few years older, but he looks older. He's speaking slower, right? Like just from a rhetorical point of view, just from a can you excite a crowd point of view, Biden doesn't do that. He never did that. That was never his thing.
No,
he's not a television personality.
No, right. He's not a Clinton or an Obama, right?
He's the person, Biden's the dude who's just like, look, if you don't want to burn it down, I'm your guy. And that really seems to be his campaign, right? Look, there are things that are going right, there are things that are going wrong, but I'm not going to destroy the whole thing. The other guys are going to really destroy the whole thing. 200 years down the drain, it's out. I'm not that dude. Now, for those of us who already believe that, that's an easy sell. Because we didn't forget 1/6. I'm having conversations with people who are Biden doesn't need to make things to build back better. Biden just needs to leave the place the way he found it, right? Just don't you could have just left it the way you found it. And I'm like, do we remember 2020? 2020 is when he found it, right? We had more people die of COVID in the United States than any other country on the planet, right? And we had a vaccine, one of the best vaccines, and we had more people die of COVID in the United States than any other country on the planet. The cities were bankrupt. The states were going bankrupt.
And
from
businesses
COVID.
are still suffering. Let me tell you something. You actually have people who are still going out of business because of COVID across the country. You have people that, as we speak, that they're closing up shop because of COVID, because of the impact of it.
Right. But in terms of the states, states were going bankrupt, cities were going bankrupt.
That's right. The housing, rents, landlords.
Right, but I'm talking about just the actual state governments, the actual city governments, right? They were going bankrupt from tax revenues. There was so much money flooded into states and cities that's running out in September, running out in October. We know this because, my public school teacher, and the talk is, these funds are running out. The funds that were government funds that were being used are running out. They're going to be running out in September, October. But had they not been there, these states and cities all over the country would have been facing different levels of crisis. I'm just on a very practical level, it seems like this is a no-brainer, right? But is it because based on inflation, based on just disaffection, that people are suffering, based on housing, right? People now who don't have a first house aren't going to be able to buy a first house, right? That even if you have a job and you're fully employed and you're working, you're not able to buy stuff. You're not able to do stuff. People have to check out different living arrangements. You are living with multiple people. When
Especially the co-ops.
People before.
The co-ops. We see that in the New York area, the tri-state area, co-ops. You have people, and these are educated professionals. 3 at a, in a loft. You see that in the city, New York City. You see that downtown Newark. You see these co-ops. What you just said, people living together, people that may not know each other, but they have to do that. I see that. I know people who are doing that now.
Yeah, there was
Essex County. I see people who are doing that now. These are people that are not from the East Coast. They may have moved here from California, the Midwest, down south, and they're working in New York, but they have to either do that, for the rent. They have no choice.
Right, and there were advertisements that my fiance saw of not apartments for rent, but beds for rent.
Beds for rent. They're serious.
So-
that is serious.
Right.
You see that all on Craigslist. You see that on Craigslist.
So
As
it
well
could
as
also
there's
be-
a popular website called Roommate Finder. So
Oh, yes.
let's say you wanted to live in the Jersey City area, you wanted to live closer to the New York or you just wanted to live in a nice high rise and everything. And a lot of people who are doing that are moving in there through Roommate Finder. And that's a very, very big and popular website.
Brother Doshon. Sorry, y'all.
Hey,
Protest
welcome,
Brother
welcome.
Hakeem. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Of course, for those of you who don't know, Hakeem Green is I call him Newark's ambassador to hip hop. He is a incredible artist. He works with incredible artists like KRS-One. He does hip hop stuff all over. He's on all these talk shows now too, and so I appreciate that. I appreciate when you post a different place you are. I'm like, all right, yes, right.
And for this particular show, most importantly, Doshon Farad's former junior high school teacher.
Oh, wow!
I had the honor and privilege of, meeting the young brother when he was still a teenager, young teen.
Just a teenager.
Okay, man.
He was accused.
Okay, so this is a full circle thing, right? Like I'm usually the one who has my former students on, and people don't know the connections, right? I had no idea. That's amazing.
Early.
All right, Doshon, we're gonna have to get you to critique. How was he as a teacher? How was Mr. Green as a teacher? Doshon, can you hear me?
Here? Okay,
Doshon is protecting me. That's what it is.
He's protecting you.
Yeah.
Doshon,
all right, so Zay, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah,
all right,
he's having
Sean,
trouble.
try to go out and come back in because your mic, we can't hear you, but your mic is on. All right. So
we was just talking about Dr. Green, Professor Green, about the rent is too damn high.
Oh wow, yeah,
it's
crazy.
And really, in the context of Black people supporting Trump, right? The conversation was there are a lot more Black people supporting Trump, and Doshon was just breaking it down, right? About why more people were supporting Trump and why a lot of Black people are going to stay home. And it's one of those things where it's just like, and we're not just talking about like, Reverend Conrad Tillard, who is, although he would not probably say he is a Trump supporter, has very openly been a Trump defender, right? In terms of just pushing that particular narrative. We know that Trump and Republicans are spending millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars trying to target the Black community to get more votes. They're targeting Black males. The Pew Research study came out saying that slightly more Black people are supporting him than did 4 years ago, like 18%. But it just feels like, based on the rally that happened in the South Bronx, it just feels like there is a lot more actual support.
Did they give a top 3 reasons, or Jonathan, in the Pew Report, did they give like a top 3 reasons as to why?
I didn't read all of it. Doshon has that, right, in terms of the specific why. Hold on, Doshon.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Back. We're still trying to come in. Y'all keep talking.
Yeah.
Listen,
I know he's in, and I know as I was cover.
Oh, wait, he wasn't.
Can you hear me?
Doshon, are you
he's
back?
back and forth.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
I hope I'm not sounding like Max Headroom.
So we were asking you, Doshon, how Mr. Green was your teacher. So was he a good teacher?
Well, when I first met Brother Hakeem, I can remember 1990, he was a teacher's aide with Mr. Walton.
Mr. Walton and Miss Levinson,
right? Mr. Walton, and it was a lovely white woman teacher. I forgot her name, but I remember she
Roberta
had a
Levinson.
disability. She had a disability. She's a very sweet woman, but she had got bit by an insect and ended up having a disability.
Whoa.
But what happened was, I remember Hakeem had Act Now.
Well,
Hakeem had Act Now, and this is the thing. Hakeem had locks at the time. So Hakeem, one time, what I liked about Brother Hakeem, we were discussing one time how we first met, Mr. Green, we called him Mr. Green, of course. We got on the subject of Africa. And so Hakeem, being the teacher that he was, he challenged me like a big brother. Because, he said, so how much do you know about the Africans? He was trying to get me to see, see what I knew. And that's when we started, that's how we started that. But Hakeem was very firm. He was, like I said, he was, we saw him as a big brother because he was, he was only like 6, 7, 8 years older than us. Okay. But but at the same time, one thing I'll say about Hakeem, he had that, he was a younger teacher, but he still had that respect. Like, in other words, we knew not to, first of all, I've never been a disrespectful student anyway.
Not at all.
But students who would be considered bad, they wouldn't try Hakeem because he's very firm. Okay, he's very firm. He was that cool teacher, but at the same time, he wasn't trying to be our friend. But we can relate to him. You know why? Because just like with Baba Zaid might be a little older. We were listening to the same music, the same, we were listening to hip hop, rap. Hakeem was coming in there with, rapping to the classes, lyrics, et cetera, et cetera. But then he was doing a public enemy. When I say public enemy, he'd have consciousness in with the lyrics. And then I remember 1994 when Madism came out. All of us at Clipper Scott High School that had, hey, that's Mr. Green, but we already knew that because Hakeem was already telling some of us that he was working on an album, Channel Live, right?
Yeah. But Act Now, African Children of Tomorrow Now, was an after-school program of myself, Brother Hassan Sharif, and Rodney Jackson, Brother TJ. We got together, created it. We saw what was missing from my educational experience in terms of knowledge of self, and because the culture of hip-hop was just the music, it was going to conferences and protests and rallies and African echoes, and the soundtrack reinforced all of that. So we were getting our mind blown by Dr. Ben and Ivan Van Sertima. We was deep into the Daruba. That's how we got. And it was like, wait a minute, we didn't get this when we was in junior high school. We got to create something where these young folks can get this experience because it's needed. So we created Act Now, and it ran at East Orange High School for 2 years. And then we brought it to Hart Middle School complex where Doshon was a student for 2 years. And he got involved right away. He was consistent with coming after school, staying for 2.5, 3 hours, just chopping it up on African history and the impact of our people globally. And, that's my guy right there. So to see what he's turned into, I see Doshon, it's like, I smile from ear to ear because I know he was on the right path early. He was talking the talk,
but guess what?
And living it. So.
I'm going to say something. Now, Zaid may not know this in particular. Okay, now Zaid remembered me when I would be, speaking as a 15-year-old at meetings. Hakeem was at my very first lecture that I ever delivered. Wow. That was I was 13 years old, February 1991. My father came, but he was there. And the name of my first.
Where was it at?
I forget.
He's taking me back. We can't hear you again.
He was doing a lecture. I don't know where.
Early. He was on it. He was on point.
14 without it.
But man, Doshon was so much money.
He was wearing like he was little Louis Farrakhan.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. But I did want to talk about Trump, though. Well, actually, not about Trump. Let me not
talk about it. Like, we know how you won't talk about Trump. We did
man, like a dog. Like tell you, man.
Post that like right now.
So, like I'm the conspiracy theory Don Dada. Like all the Behold the Pale Horse, Rule by Secrecy, Committee of 300, Trilateral Commission, it's all your favorite conspiracy theory joints.
Still cannot hear.
In it in the 90s. I was always engaging folks, you know, with conspiracy theory or information put out by the Heritage Foundation, not truly understanding where that's from.
No, Doshon, we can hear you now. Oh, then he went back out. Okay.
Yeah, like, so, you know, I was deep. And then Occupy, I'm going to fast forward. Occupy Wall Street happened, right? Obama's the incoming president. And I got, you know, downtown Manhattan protesting with the right, and the would be the Tea Party cats and the libertarians and the, you know, and I'm into Alex Jones, hard body, you know, I'm going to 9/11 truth, all that. I'm deep. And then I started organizing with these white cats, and I started realizing y'all jokers would hang me if y'all got the chance. You guys are racist. You're not about freedom for all people. You got your own little political thing happening going on, and you're using the power of hip hop and the revolutionary spirit that exists in hip hop. But y'all really not about empowering black people at all. That's not what you're here to do. And maybe look at them crazy. And then I go forward. Obama's president twice. Sad to say I didn't vote for him twice, because they're going to use the black man to usher in the Illuminati. That's what they're going to do. They're going to get the black man, and he's going to come with this Obamacare. But in order to access Obamacare, you're going to have to get the chip. That's how they're going to get everybody to get the chip.
Wow.
So I fought it. My mother was like, boy, you 40-some-odd years old. You walking around here with no health insurance. You better sign up for insurance. My fiance at the time, now my wife, Hakeem, you got to sign up for insurance. It's important. You're getting older. You're not getting... They twist my arm. Finally, I said, I'll sign up. I signed up for Obamacare. Got approved. 3 months later, broke my wrist. Doing the x-rays around my wrist, they discovered that I'm going through something I'm still dealing with now with both hands, but it's a condition my mom had. We just all messed up. It's not arthritis. It's the bones are floating in my hand. It's like, it's crazy. So they had to perform an operation to pull the bones up, put a plate in it, screw them in. So if y'all remember, 2015 to about 2018, I was messed up. If it wasn't for Obamacare, I'd be walking around without the use of my left hand.
Wow.
Lesson. The conspiracy theory community is here to talk out of our own benefit through government. It's here to get us to disengage from it so the right and the white boys could assume power, the power position, get a hold of them guns, get a hold of them finances, and keep us messed up.
Yeah.
That's what I feel about Trump and why there's so many black people who seem to be disenchanted with the Democratic Party and they all in Trump. Many of those people are not registered to vote. They just got a mouthpiece. They just talking. When it comes time to vote, black people who are really engaged in electoral politics and understand how it works, going to turn out overwhelmingly blue like we always do since Johnson's era.
I think what you said was really brilliant in terms of talking about your own experience with this and your own experience in like what conspiracy theories, how they affected you and what you came to realize they were designed to do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's actually a playbook, right? Like,
oh yeah,
it's one that ironically George Orwell talks about where like literally he's writing about the conspiratorial left in 1984 as just being a different arm of Big Brother, different arm of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at just what it's saying, it literally, I mean, you broke it down beautifully, right? It literally is saying disengage, don't demand certain things from government, don't engage in the political process. The conclusion of conspiracy theories is to drop out, right? Yeah. To opt out of politics, opt out of those things. And that simply just cedes all ground to the right wing, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the Heritage Foundation people who are literally plotting and planning right now how to make more money and cake. And it's not a conspiracy. They put it on the website.
Yeah,
right?
it is. Yep.
They're like, here, this is what we want to do if Trump is elected. Project 2025, right.
Yeah,
and that is on right. And that's on their website, right? The Heritage Foundation openly talks about that. This is not a conspiracy. This is just what they are saying.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
They are getting volunteers for it, right? So and it's part of an effort to gut the state's ability to regulate business, push like certain levels of regulation, which is what they're attempting to do in the Supreme Court now. Like there's some Supreme Court cases that are directly targeting the EPA that have implications for other forms of regulation. Because if the EPA can't tell corporations what to do in terms of those limits, then that pretty much guts a regulatory apparatus of the state, which is actually an important part of protecting all of our lives, right?
That's right.
Whether it be the Consumer Protection Agency that regulates credit cards, et cetera, whether it be the Environmental Protection Agency, all of those things, because people and the conspiracy, like there's not really a conspiracy because it's out in the open, and their thing is very direct. They just want to make money. They're greedy, right? And they want to make more money. They'll make more money with less regulation. So like there it is. But the way you actually broke that down, I thought was very informative, because I'm trying to figure out like why are all these people like.
When I first started coming on the show, I was still deep into the conspiracy theory world. You could probably tell that, Jonathan. We had a couple debates on the show when we were going over the Rutgers.
Oh, we're back in the studio.
Yeah, we're back in the studio.
Yeah.
I was still like in my conspiratorial phase, right? And then the thing that really got me out of it was what happened with Ras Baraka in Newark, New Jersey, and then seeing the power of the vote, the power of organizing the people, and what happens when our people really decide to get organized and use strength in numbers and direct that on the local level, and then have accountability as we go up to the county, state, federal. And you need players in all these positions. If you want something on the local level, you have to have friends in the federal government that you could talk to open up channels and doors and be able to direct things. So understanding all that and seeing it play out in real time, understanding there's power in that, and why wouldn't you want to engage? And I'm sorry, when I go into Black, African American, original man community, I don't see Republicans doing anything. I'm not saying they're not there. I'm just saying organizing the people around power to the people, how to teach people how to exercise their power. I mean, I don't see that. I see them hoarding information, hoarding knowledge, hoarding resources, hoarding money. Everything's they'll set you up for the grift, and then when they
closed society.
When they got what they need out of you, they kick you to the curb. Now, and that's not to say that we owe our allegiance to the Democrats. Brother Jalen Rose put it perfectly. He said, politics and how we move as a unit is like the football game. Like there's sometimes you're not going to win the game, right? But what you're doing is always fighting for field position. You're fighting. I got to punt. It's 4th and long. We on our own 15. Let me punt the ball down the field to try to get better field position. So the next time we can go on offense. So it's like looking at politics. Like who can I put in place? Who can we put in place that's going to fight for us? And they may mess up. They're human. People lie, cheat, steal all the time. And if you do, we replace you. But the objective is to always advance our goals. And then we're not organized, so we don't even know what those goals are. What's best in our best interest. And it's interesting. We count on that.
When you were talking about the show, one of the things that I love about the show is we got to see that in real time. We got to see Raz organize from being a council person to mayor, but we also got to see Zaid, we got to see Keisha Yuri, we got to see the Anti-Violence Coalition go from being activists in the street to being people who were leading different parts of government and using the things that they learned from the federal government, like the Center for Disease Control, right? About how violence is a communicable disease. It can spread like a disease, right? So you have the federal research being used by local activists who are implementing that now as people in government, right? Who have the power of tax dollars to be able to utilize policies in that way. You also have, and we saw this with Payne, Congressman, our friend Congressman Payne on a federal level, how they would work together, right? You saw this in the evolution of the relationship between Ras Baraka and Cory Booker in terms of how they work together. for the betterment of bringing dollars to the city to give for things that we need, even to the point of the anti-violence coalition. And I love seeing this with Zaid from looking at it as a program in the city, programs all over the state, to a state office of violence prevention and a federal office of violence prevention that's based off of what local people have been doing all over the country, which is the best example of how politics is supposed to work.
Yep.
And a very non-conspiratorial, right? But like looking at trying to weld power to solve problems that people have, because ultimately we pay tax dollars.
Right.
We have to be able to get some level of results from those based on local leadership that understands and helps develop, right, with the help of community organizations, actual solutions to the problems that we face.
Yeah.
And also one of the ones that I'm most proud of is Mayor Baraka's plan, the lead pipe, and how he used that, and now it's at the federal level. Hakeem, you were talking about Republicans not being helpful in the African American community, and I can remember they had put a very a great leader to the head of their party, Michael Steele. And it just seems like they sabotaged everything that he wanted to do. But there was a young black man who was a Republican who had some, good ideas. And when he was a leader of the Republican Party, it seems like they sabotaged him. It was very unfortunate.
Yeah. I think they just use individuals to disarm us, disarm us. And, you think that, both parties are the same. I understand fiscal conservatism. I do understand. I get that, and I don't dismiss it. But there's no real inroads to uplifting our people. They go, what has the Democratic Party done for you since you guys have been, in lockstep with it? And I'm like, well, what has the Republican Party done on the whole?
Right.
Show me.
And there has been a lot, and I would love to hear Congressman Payne and Jonathan go at it with that subject. What have they done? And especially when he the subject of the
student loans.
Student loans, yes, I was going there. The party
Right.
is student loan, and
my family's a beneficiary of it. That's how we were able to buy our house. We freed up student loan debt. Thanks to the Biden administration doing what they do.
Got that letter, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends, like so many, my friends up and down my Facebook line, putting out showing about like $100,000 debt relief, $200,000 in debt relief,
Yeah, man.
some serious debt relief, because ultimately it's an acknowledgement that those policies were predatory anyway.
Right. And the sad part is the Democratic Party has to do a better job of telling their story, though. They must tell the story. Bring people together, and how many people have a day where everybody can do a social media, like put your letter up and show, so you can just see the amount of people who had their debt relief. It would be amazing. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you a question, this question, Donna. Do you think that like I know that people say just tell the story more, right? Like just tell what you've been doing. But given the way inflation's been working, and that policies over the last 40 years where people can't buy a first house, right? Like the rent, right? People don't want to leave their houses, they want to leave their apartments. They leave their apartment, right? That they might have to get in these markets where it's way expensive, right? People are scared based on housing and based on inflation. Do you think that people can hear anything outside of that?
No. And we have to find a way that they can hear. It definitely, speaking as a realtor, it definitely is a seller's market. And it has been a seller's market for a while right now. I know it's changing in different places, but for, your Essex County, your New Jersey and New York, it still has not changed, to purchase, a person who has had their house and had it for a while and they haven't taken any money out of their house. This is an opportunity for you to get, and maximize and do what sell a house, get the money, pay some things off for some of the children. But the problem is the person who sells can never go back and buy a house like they have or anything similar because it's not out there, So, and how long before it switchbacks over to it becomes a market where people are buying, we're not sure. But it's a scary, it's really scary, when you can't, or more so when you have to have generations of people living in a house so that we can live. I'm sorry, go ahead, Hakeem.
I wanted to ask in terms of,
can you put that back up? I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Okay, go ahead. Okay.
We talking about the federal government and Joe Biden, the economy. How much does private corporations have to do? You have these investment firms buying up all of these properties so they can, kind of monopolize the housing market. And then all these private homes would become rental properties.
Right.
They get to control the price of the rent and what have you. And then even with food, it's been admitted that the companies are record profits, but they're still raising the price. And I think Biden did something to force them to kind of lower the price on certain things. They all unanimously did it, which showed that they were only doing it to make money in the first place. It wasn't really inflation as much as it was corporations just deciding they were going to charge more for merchandise.
Right. So in the beginning, it was because gas was so high, right? And then when they were able to stabilize the gas, they still left the food. The food prices are ridiculous.
And what Hakeem brought up though is a national trend. They talked about it in Newark, whereas LLCs can't buy single family homes in Newark anymore, right? That is, but all over the country, the price of housing is skyrocketing because you have first-time home buyers competing with LLCs who are literally buying homes so that single-family homes, so they can rent it out. Which means that if you actually rent out a single-family home, you will never be able to buy, right? It is almost like permanently locking an entire class of people out of ever becoming home buyers in that particular way.
Right.
Hey, Che JT Coulter says Hakeem, Biden is a $7 gas in Cali at one point. Biden doesn't have a $7 gas price. The president actually has very little to do with gas prices, and you can look it up. How are gas prices determined? And when you see everything that goes into it, from the drilling, origin to the, district, the refining, the processing, the putting in a barrel, getting it to the gas station, the privately owned Gulf, Exxon Mobil, Biden doesn't control them.
And also in California,
and they tend to be Republican, by the way.
Right, and fair, and that is absolutely true. Like the oil companies are owned by Republicans, and Trump just basically said to the heads of oil companies, if you give them $1 billion, he'll make regulation a lot easier for you, right? But the California gas prices are based on California laws, just like New Jersey. Like we're one of the only, I think we're one of two states where you can't pump your gas. That's regulated by state law. California gas prices are based on California state law that regulates them in a particular way that makes the gas prices higher. I think that they have to have a certain special blend or a different blend in California as well. That also makes the gas a little more expensive. So there are a series of things there that have nothing to do with Biden. The gas prices in California are always more expensive. As in, anytime I've traveled to California for the last 25 years, whenever I've gone to California, I'm like, ooh, sticker shock for the gas, because the gas is always more expensive than the rest of the country.
Right.
As a whole, California is more expensive. But yeah, I'm sorry.
You can also say that they are neighbors to Newark, Shell, and Exxon Corporation. Newark should have a coupon. I'm just saying again. Also, it's the whole idea that the president controls the gas prices. That's just not true. Oh, that's a right-wing talking point to throw mud on the Democrats when the reason why our gas was so high for so long coming out of the pandemic was because Trump, because of the pandemic, because of the lockdown, people weren't driving their cars.
Right.
Nobody was using gasoline. So I think Trump got them to keep the price at a certain level for a certain amount of time, but we ended up coming out of the pandemic a year earlier than Trump had promised the deal, which is so like there's a whole thing that goes on where Republicans are always able to duck and dodge the criticism while we're steadily throwing mud at the other side.
And there's well documented of Biden going to the gas companies and the conversations he had about the prices and that they need to bring the prices down, and him, really going hard to the gas companies. So
There was a story yesterday. I think he was in Saudi Arabia. He was in the Middle East recently, meeting with OPEC, and there was some deal done where the lead of the story said, "Did Joe Biden finally break up the world's largest oil cartel?" Meaning OPEC. I doubt if that happened, but it's something where he's negotiated them to deal with us in a way that will have an effect on the price of gas. But I don't know.
No, that was in like 2023, where he tried to basically negotiate with Saudi Arabia, but that didn't work. So he's been trying. But the thing is, Saudi Arabia, they think that Trump's going to be reelected, and they have a great relationship with the Trumps. So they're not going to release more oil, right? Like, in other words, if Saudi Arabia just released a lot more oil, prices would go down.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. It says MSNBC how Joe Biden broke OPEC and rewrote the rules for oil trading. It's a video. I got to find the actual article, and I'll send it to Zaid so he can post it.
All right, fair. But I know about what happened in 2023 when he was trying to get them to, when he was very much trying to get them to, this is actually pretty new, right? 3 days ago? Yeah, I know that last year.
Yeah,
he was very much trying to get them, and Saudi Arabia was like, kick rocks.
This is 10 hours ago, how Joe Biden broke OPEC and released oil trading.
Right.
Biden administration restricts oil and gas leasing. Wait a minute. Biden's oil let down. This is last year.
And AP News. We all looking right.
It's something we could talk about. But I don't know if it's. I have not read this story, so it's something that I would have to read in terms of broke OPEC. Yeah. I would doubt that. But
I don't think I doubt that happened. Yeah,
right. Because I see Biden to release 1 million barrel of gasoline to reduce prices at the pump ahead of July 4th. So
they do that all the time. That's actually something that's done quite often. The United States has an oil reserve, right? That's what the story is about. We have an emergency oil reserve that we keep, and often we can release a lot of oil off of that reserve to lower prices. But it's not something that can be done, consistently often. But it can lower prices.
Well, I think that what she's reading is that he got OPEC to release a billion barrels at a lower cost, or is it got them to do it? So it's not coming from our reserves.
Okay, I'd have to read that.
Okay. So I just sent it to us. Okay.
All right. So, but I do think that Biden is trying to he's trying to jump through a lot of hoops that he's not going to get credit for because it's not sexy and he looks old and people are looking at inflation, right? I think that they try to dress up in these great sunglasses, but ultimately he doesn't present in any way that is exciting, right? even though he's doing a lot of different work, I think that he has to get past all of the doubt, inflation, housing, to be able to even hear about the infrastructure bill, the stuff that he did that actually has been very helpful, because it just is wild that people are literally making the argument that we were better off 4 years ago under Trump, when Trump left. And I'm like,
it's delusion.
2020, like maybe it was so traumatic that we'd all have collective amnesia. Like when you have 1 million people die in the United States of COVID, you have literally states and individuals going bankrupt based on what happened economically, the economic fallout of COVID. You have an insurrection in the United States Capitol right at the very end of his term that threatened very essence of democracy itself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people know what they're saying when they say go back 4 years ago, except for none of that stuff matters because inflation hurt so much worse, which is.
I don't know what they're talking about. Talk about going back to the good old days, because what they were talking about were not good old days for us.
Can I read something? Joyanne Reed posted something from Robert Reich. He said Trump had been involved in 4,000 plus lawsuits before he ever rode down that escalator in 2015.
Wow.
He's not in legal trouble because he's running for president. He's running for president to escape his legal trouble.
Right.
Yeah, and his legal debt.
Right. So it's like if you can't see that and how dangerous that is for everybody.
He's hustling fascism. He ain't just about it. He's hustling.
No, he's hustling it. It's a hustle. And he'll sell everybody out.
Oh my God.
He'll sell out the whole country to save his own. You can imagine the debt he owes to not just, American capital elite, Russia, Saudis. Come on, man. You got to make good on your investment. And what is that investment?
Relationship with him and Putin.
What's that investment?
Now, just to segue in, I didn't even look at the time. I see Rhino here. Welcome, Rhino.
Hey, GJ Rhino.
He's God.
Peace.
Hey, Rhino, can I just say?
What's good, bro?
Disha.
Yo, man, me and my wife was digging that, man. We played it, man. And my wife was even like, yo, I like this. Yeah, man, the music. And, of course, for me, it was the, yeah, man. And, of course, for me, it was the message. But, I dug it, man. I dug it. I'm gonna be throwing it in some of my sets.
Ah, nice. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Now y'all got to let us in.
Yeah, you still got to come to me for some beats, man.
Okay, send them to me. Let's go. I'm trying to record something right now. Actually, me and Minnie talking about doing something, so maybe you slap something together for me and Minnie.
All right, yeah, I'll send you something.
Yeah.
Word up.
Disha.
Yeah.
Know what Disha stands for, Brother Zaid?
Well, take
Tell
us
us.
to school.
It's called Disha. It's spelled DSYA. Disha. Excuse my language, Donna, but Disha means don't sell your ass.
Don't sell your okay.
Don't be like Donald Trump. Don't sell your ass. But it ain't about Donald Trump. It's about some of our other brothers. Excuse me, some of our brothers.
Yeah, Negroes do sell their ass.
Who been on the grift. Selling their ass.
Yeah, we got some grimy Negroes selling their own asses for sure.
Yeah, man. Don't do that. Don't do that.
I sent everybody a picture back from my memories on Facebook from 2009 when President Biden came to stump for John Corzine when he was running for governor, and that's what the picture I sent to everybody. And just look at and it was up at the Cody Arena. So if you look in your in our where we do all of the posting and everything, you'll see that picture. And what's that? 15 years ago? Yeah. June 7, 2009. And what was interesting about that day, there was a strike going on, and President Biden would not come out until they settled this. Until they had settled their contract, He stayed in the back and put the pressure on them to settle that contract, and it worked. And then he came out and spoke.
All right. So what I read of the pivoting back,
reserve. It was the reserve.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, what I also heard was that OPEC made internal decisions that could help Biden as well. So I don't know what that. Nice. I don't know what the relationship is, but apparently they did something where they would that would lead to lower oil prices through the summer, which could be good for them because that's usually increased driving. But but you were saying you were talking about. I don't want to. Let's go back to the conversation because I know we're running out of time. And DJ Rhino, what's up? What's good?
EPMD.
EPMD, Strictly Business. Happy anniversary to their debut album, Strictly Business, 1988. We were just talking about 1988 just on last week's show when
in hip hop.
Yeah, when By All Means Necessary came out last week, Friday, 1988. RS Boogie Down Productions. Yeah. So this one was 1988 on this day. It was their debut album, Strictly Business. Had You Got to Chill, Customer, It's My Thing. I mean, they had all kinds of Steve Martin. They had all kinds of hits on there that was just crazy. But that was that rich time in hip hop, man. When you had all flavors.
Greatest year ever.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Great Adventures of Slick Rick.
Oh,
1980.
K's album dropped that year.
Rock. Yeah, man.
Come on.
3 Feet High and Rising, all of that.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, man. That was a good year, man. So,
Jungle Brothers, Straight Out the Jungle.
Yeah, bro.
Was that the years Dougie Fresh was at Martin Stadium for 4th of July? Yeah, I don't know if it was that year, but I'll never forget that show. 4th of July, Martin Stadium. Him and Slick Rick.
Can I ask a question?
What's up?
Absolutely.
And I'm very interested to hear Brother Zaid's answer to this. You know, Brother Malcolm, the great teacher, dropped an extremely poignant analogy about the two parties. That you got the wolf, the Republican Party, and you got the sly fox, the Democratic Party.
Sly fox.
Sly fox, sneaky fox. Smile in your face, get ready for dinner while he's smiling at you. If you had to choose, would you rather fight a fox or a wolf?
Shoot both of their asses.
Now, you gotta choose. You have to choose. You gotta choose.
That's my choice. I got a gun. I got 2 bullets. I'm shooting.
You got 1 bullet.
I got 1 bullet.
Listen. We only
I'm gonna try to line them up.
So you only gonna bring the fox. You gotta choose one. Which one you gonna choose to fight first? Which one you gonna choose to fight first?
Malcolm say if whatever dog is biting, you kill that dog.
You have to choose. If you gotta choose, which one you gonna choose to fight?
Oh, that's really not easy. I think. I mean, this is the 60th anniversary of the ballot of the bullet, and Malcolm talked about radical approaches to the ballot, and he also talked about the importance of united strategies with the ballot. If you lean on the united strategies, you folks would probably lean towards Biden and away for Trump because Trump represents the obvious advance in acceleration of fascism. But Biden ain't shit. Right?
No, he's a wolf too. I mean, he's a canine too. He'll bite you, but you gotta fight him.
So I mean,
we got this.
I think the raw question though that he's asking is basically if you get rushed by a fox and a wolf, which one you gonna shoot first? Which one is more threatening to you?
The one that's closest.
The wolf.
Man, listen. If I got
that's gonna be a shot.
Yeah, a one-on-one with a full-blown wolf, you're not winning that fight, bro. No gun. I'm not talking about a gun. You got to fight him. You got to put your hands on him and fight him. You're not winning the fight with a wolf, bro. You just not. Now a fox, you can kick that joke around and treat him like you need to treat him. Pick him up, throw him, break him, do all types of things to a fox. Wolf, you ain't gonna win that fight.
I was raised by a shotgun show, man. I'm gonna have me a shotty.
I know we are
in this situation.
I know we have reached about that time, and I definitely want to thank all the guests that we had on our show. Like from the Payne Report when Eric Payne came on with staffer Isabel Cruz, 28 years of working for the Payne
It's good to
family.
have Isabel on. That was great. Yeah.
That was
Isabel,
amazing. Pamela Shaw
Pamela
and
Johnson.
Pamela Johnson and Perry Shaw. I apologize. I have to get that right in the in our advertisements. Pamela Johnson and Perry Shaw of the one of the Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition and the other the Trenton Community Street Team. Thank you for having them on. Also, Doshon Farad of GoPro Radio and journalist extraordinaire for Black people. Great conversation with him, and love how that segued into Hakeem Green and what you were talking about as well. Before we got to this, I know it's almost time for us to go, but I want to give DJ Rhino the final word, like stuff that you really want to highlight for what we did for this evening.
Just since we were on the classic hip hop artists and the classic era of hip hop, man, I just want to shout out Common and Pete Rock got some new music out there. Check for Common and Pete Rock.
Yep.
I think they got a joint called Trying, and they have another one. Wise Up. Yeah, Wise Up. That was real cool.
That could have been good for our conversation.
Yeah. Also, Nas and DJ Premier got some new music, and they're working on a new album as well. Also, going back to Primo and Common, they're working on the album. Their album is titled The Auditorium Volume 1. So that means that they're
got it going right now. Pete Rock, Primo.
Yeah, Primo and Nas. Yeah, this is what's happening, man. It's
Childish Gambino got a new one out.
Yeah. So it's some good stuff coming out, man. We got the summer coming. LL just dropped he's dropping a new single from the album that's coming up. I think it's supposed to be dropping when is it? I think the 15th it's supposed to be dropping. But LL's got some new stuff, man. He said the album's supposed to be dropping in the fall, so look out for that. So a lot of the classic artists, man, that we kind of grew up with, you know what I'm saying? They coming out with new music, new hot stuff too, man. And then of course
Eminem
out for my man Hakeem Green.
Disha.
Yes.
Disha.
DSYA. Disha.
DSYA.
And DJ Rhino. And DJ and Rhino, what are you doing this weekend?
This weekend, I may be doing my thing tomorrow on Twitch, because usually during the summertime I take a break. I take a break until like September. I usually come back in September. But me and my OGV family, big ups to Operation Good Vibes. We've been doing a lot of good things, a lot of big things we're trying to do for this summer. So they kind of want me to do, stay consistent for a little while. You know what I mean? Okay. So I'm going to jump on tomorrow, regular time, 3 p.m. for the Shake Up. Y'all can check me. That's twitch.tv/RhinoCMZ, 3 p.m. Twitch for the Shake Up. That's it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And Hakeem, one more promotion for your new song.
Disha. Don't sell your ass.
Don't sell your ass.
Coming soon. I'm supposed to get a special collab. So I can't, because the content, what I'm talking about is so, it's gritty. I'm kind of poking at people. You know what I'm saying? And the collaboration that I put on here, I'm gonna tell you afterwards. Man, it's gonna take it to the next level. And I'm almost done with the video that's been made in AI.
Okay.
Ooh.
Crazy. Oh, and I'm launching a cannabis brand, Madism, in Michigan.
Okay.
And as New Jersey gets their thing right, and New York gets their thing right, you'll see us, expand. But we're launching it July 10th, and I will be putting songs from the Madism Who Want This Smoke album on there. What is Madism with KRS-One? Smoke Madism with Tretch, Do It All, Keith Murray.
Yeah, I heard that one. Just recently.
And Poppy's Place with Thurston Howell III.
Okay. We gotta do an hour on the DJ Rhino, because that's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and thank you so much. as always.
Yes,
And until next week.
Peace. 24 hours apiece, August 23rd, 24th. It's going to be crazy.
In Cuba.
August 23rd, 24th?
August 23rd, 24th, Central Avenue on 9th Street. West Ward, stand up. You're
Central
doing it big.
Central Avenue 9th. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
All right, until next week.
Peace.
Yeah.